best teams in the region.
That's right. That is 100 Thieves, and they will be taking on FlyQuest in their last match of opening week.
Thank you, Zoe. Heading into it, FlyQuest, like you mentioned, like I think actually Zoe put it pretty well. Like they don't need to be, the best team in the world here. They just need to be like, Sentinels, like scrape by this week, try to get to next week. But you don't want to go in that 0-3 deficit like the side of Lunex is in Group B, because that just makes it such a hard next week and difficult opportunity for you. But, it's not an easy test against the 100 Thieves for sure, but you have to start it out in the ban phase, and we're going to immediately ban out the DD and Mantis for the side of FlyQuest, which is, I think, a unique start, Vicky?
Yeah, when you just saw, 100 Thieves just go crazy with Delena on Elsa, so now Delena gets to get the server admin unlocked, so we have to see how that's going to play out for FlyQuest, but... They have a game plan. They take out the Gambit. They wanted to prio protect the Mantis. You were talking about the Mantis earlier today and the Psylocke. And that's interesting because that's probably going to force out the Gambit ban from the other side for 100 Thieves onto FlyQuest. See how that's going to work out hand in hand. But I know a lot of players are also excited to see more of 100 Thieves with this iteration of Self being slotted in. You talked a lot about Self prior. Talk about the flexibility too between the duelists of Delena and Self and what they could bring too. Because honestly, 100 Thieves also have no issue if they have to run the triple strat.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy, and I think this will determine at least my perspective on this triple strategist composition with the Mantis and stuff. Like, it feels like FlyQuest are almost preparing for next week when the Elsa nerfs come through and she's minus 50 HP. Maybe that's the reason why they're doing this, because for 100 Thieves, I mean, they've just gotten everything. Like, they've gotten actually everything. Like, this isn't except the Gambit. But the fact that you get Vanpool, the fact that you get Elsa, I mean, maybe that's just like a this week type of situation going on. But that's brutal to see those two in the lobby on the opposite side. I'm really curious how FlyQuest play against it.
It's going to be hard, and TTK is already hovering over that. Angela, let's get this going, everybody. Our last series of the day to close out the first week of the preseason here in the Ignite Americas region. Diving right into the action with FlyQuest trying to prioritize the Mantis. You have to consider the fact that they're also dealing with the Loki ban, the Gambit ban, Zelos being on the Cloaking Dagger. Let's see if this is going to work out for them. But I think one thing that we can't take away from today, Docman, is the amount of Ultron that has been utilized on Dom specifically.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that the Ultron itself is just, very hard to KO on top of the fact that he does insane damage. And he's kind of easy to play. Like, for people that can aim, it's just a hero that kind of gets value by existing almost, right? The only thing that's kind of tough is figuring out when to use your ultimate. If there's a Magneto on the opposite side, you're just going to farm up that or whatever. But immediately we're going to go for this extreme fast TP play. We'll see if Vess wants to maybe go towards the point, if they're all grouped together for 100 Thieves side, and maybe we get some one-shots with the damage boost.
Trying to get a kidnap here too, splitting the attention, but 100 Thieves are already ahead of them as the point unlocks in the next 6 seconds. Susie already gets trapped. Jeff over from the other side, this time in the hands of Ken after we saw Winnie go over to the white box. I love what I've seen thus far too with a lot of our white box players, and that's before the buff too, as TTK lingers about to get more information and to harass this backline. The Angela is hungry, looking to sweep in on its next prey.
Yeah, absolutely, just try to playing around, waiting in the wings. But, in general, kind of comes for that dive early, has to back away to the health pad, just kind of play around.
Oh, taking so much damage. Melio enters back and finds TTK. Great peel, too, to help Melio gut up to health thanks to Zelos and Ken. And now with that first pick, FlyQuest do have the advantage for now before they try to re-engage because Vinny does have that Vanpool. Going in now, too, with her going back here, Dogman, while you get your setup here situated. Delena's still now on this Elsa and close to that Glartrox.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of close to it. Building up on the inside. Sorry, Vicky, it's just a very little pixely online for me right now.
No worries, though, because then we can kind of clean off our glasses just to see that Melio finally does get taken out, and the extermination comes in from Self. Delena is close to that Glartrox too, but it's going to be Zelos first with the invisible boundary. FlyQuest looking a little bit more straightened up, but with Zelos getting caught with the Glartrox, they deleted it quickly, but it's not fast enough before Delena gets a finishing blow onto Zelos. Now the Dance of the Cutterfly comes in. Jolly finds 2 off of 100 Thieves, and Tusi goes crazy, at least with the Psylocke, with them getting the control over the point first.
Yeah, excellent work there to cap the point, and also my internet to finally sort its stuff out. But for FlyQuest, you know, we'll see how this upcoming fight kind of goes, as they've already set themselves up for a good position. You know, they can kind of play, you know, towards that objective, play towards the point, and allow maybe a little bit more space to come through, as you have some solid ultimates. You excelled in the previous fight, also to avoid a lot of that damage with the Glartrox. So we'll see if they can keep it up moving forward. Maybe hit a huge Jeff ult, as Self does not have the Ultron, or TTK doesn't have his Meteor M.
I think when you have that environmental KO potential, if he gets protected, looking onto 100 Thieves now with Winnie and Millennia getting to cycle through these drought ults and look for Self, and that extermination that rings through your ears. They're trying to boot FlyQuest off this point, and Jolly has a lot of sustainability too with the Freedom Charge. Melio wraps everybody up together though, and it's going to be the Mantis ult to bring them into this point, because they have not gotten off just yet. 100 Thieves trying to force them off, and with the It's Jeff from Ken, Meteor M just to slam down, but a good protection to help enable Ken.
Yeah, nice job by Vess to block that Meteor M coming down to save the Jeff. In the meanwhile, they're trying to go to the back line, force out that Luna ultimate. Millennia wants to go forward, right? Take advantage, but that Eye's coming through. Maybe debate it out to Lena with the Glartrox off the map. No, it hits the wall. Actually, no, it doesn't.
Oh.
He brings it back, but it still gets deleted, so everybody's still healthy. And guess what? FlyQuest at the point. No ultimates for support ults on the 100 Thieves side. They're hit by Jolly and Tuzi with the Dances of Butterflies, and they're cleaned up. FlyQuest, they're at 90%.
This is a different FlyQuest and a different 2C on this Psylocke. Now you see why they wanted to prio this. FlyQuest showcasing that they have more secrets up their sleeve, and 100 Thieves are going to have to recontest with the portal.
Oh my goodness, and can they get there in time? The answer is yes. At the very least, they get that overtime tick down, but you know, they have no ultimates. They have to play slow, and Ken is coming up on another Jeff ult. You maybe can get a pick off on Delena or something. Maybe somebody has to go off, but you have to play on the inside angle. Everybody's disengaging that dive coming through. Jolly understands that, needs to live. Good job playing his life for now. Vinny comes out, has that Banhammer. Jeff on as well comes through. Maybe they can live, and Vinny can get some more damage off down range, but into the sky that Jeff goes. What doesn't want to get Meteor? Delena shuts him out. Nice job from Delena to read that. That was the player that needed to step up in that previous fight without the ultimate advantage. But they still need to find more. Glartrox coming up soon.
And with overtime ticking down and Vez having the Eye of Agamotto, look at TTK, who's falling incredibly low. Winnie also close for a reset. Eye of Agamotto comes in, but it only finds TTK. Delena finding Melio right as Zelos calls in the invisible boundary, with TTK getting the shish kebab, making sure that the Glartrox truly eats tonight, and 100 Thieves flip the points. But talk about a dominating first few fights from FlyQuest there to get themselves to 99.
And that was messy. I wonder if, like, so Ken, I think didn't want to get Meteor M'd or maybe even one-shot / charmed. So that is interesting. That didn't go for that Jeff ultimate in the previous fight. That maybe could have turned things. But the decision-making, regardless, has them at 99%, right? So they're going into this next fight. If they can force out Winnie's ultimate now, Self is on Doctor Strange of all things, right? No longer on the Ultron, so they don't have that crazy healing output. But you can't allow Delena, this guy right here, to get pickoffs like he did in the previous fight.
Yeah, Delena was getting away with it, even punishing the It's Jeff. When you saw Ken trying to go for that up on the high ground after he didn't really hit anybody. Uncontested in the back is Millennia, and Winnie's got the resustainability because with assembling the troops, Jolly and the Freedom Charge is leading the way. Meteor M from TTK trying to find its mark. 2C gets to the back and harasses the only Luna Snow, who's by themselves. Delena tries to go in for the heals, but you try to get the health back too. And Delena comes out on top in that 1v1, but it's a trade-off from both sides.
Yeah, did it buy enough time, right? The Psylocke destined to die in that situation, and hyper-aggressive Delena goes. He fell. No way, Self's ultimate's a little bit too late to save him, but they still get 2 KOs. Counter Eye of Agamotto, blocked by shields by the Vanguard. They're still alive. Self blocked it alongside TDK. And Vess, he now finds himself with his pants down. He's gotten 2 in the fight. Still controlling the point 2 is 100 Thieves.
Self with the Eye of Agamotto onto Zelos and Melio. They cannot catch a break, it seems, and Ken is coming in with the It's Jeff because 100 Thieves have flipped this from 0 to 99 and are nearing 90%.
This has gotten incredibly close, Vicky, and, you know, we have to see now. Like, what does Ken do with this ultimate? He's kind of the only one with it, right? A lot of times he's been dodging. They need to play slow, maybe for that Meteor M. Gets poked a little bit early, but every time, you know, they're playing slow, allowing the team to build up towards those ultimates, and the Glartrox is still available. And we saw what Delena did before.
Delena's looking for those cough drops, though, shortly before wrapping over to the left side, and they immediately use it. The Glartrox catching one. The follow-up onto Vez. Big pick. Let's see if FlyQuest can come into the recontest, as Zelos also has the invisible boundary. 2C waking up, finds 2. Can they find a quick 3K? Jumps up, gets stunned. Beautiful safety as the invisible boundary comes in and a dance up from 100 feet for the sustain.
Wait, he's going to have the dance floor after this. They have to KO the Psylocke. Everybody has to look at him, make sure he can't get it off, otherwise we're all dead. Into the sky. One. Portal's there by his own teammate. Comes through. He's accidentally through. He wastes half of it because Vez's portal brings him back to his own spawn.
No way! The double portal now recontest from 100 keys at CTK taking quick nap. Meteor M is ready. The Freedom Charge is coming in. They're trying to play around the portal to get out of the line of sight. But it's a back and forth. Meteor M up. They have to recontest on the point. They can't get off as it is 100 Thieves' point right now. And with Jolly Fun and Millennia, that's how you open things up for FlyQuest.
Yeah, that's a huge pick. Portal out. Cooldowns out of the White Fox. Can Delena get traded? Oh my goodness, Zelos gets it in the 1v1. Now there's just a Dr. Strange with the backline. Meanwhile, Vinny, what do you have for us on the Van Pool? Can you stall it? No portal. The answer is no. The damage boost is too much from Tuzi and FlyQuest, who win round 1.
What is... Are you kidding me? 2C? I want to have whatever breakfast 2C had, because 2C is popping off. The immediate focus, the recontest, even at the end of that Dance of the Cutterfly, kind of getting cut off early, still found those prio picks. This Psylocke is on fire, and this is the FlyQuest of those individual talented players that we know to come and love.
Absolutely. Maybe it's that European sort of mentality in terms of the fact that they run the Mantis at a pretty high level. Melio playing that flex role gives him the damage boost, allow Tuzi to, you know, pop off like he did. And it's funny because I think we've seen Melio do well in Psylocke as well. So, you know, it's a very interesting team, you know, taking parts of EMEA, coming through, you know, and based on how everybody's talking about it and stuff, we lowered our expectations. But, you know, maybe, Vicky, we need to increase them again, because if they were to beat 100 Thieves today, I mean, 100 Thieves can start off the season 0-2 after all of the expectations that they had.
Can you imagine being like from the EMEA region and like watching this right now? America's is quite literally a masterclass of interesting outcomes, it seems like. FlyQuest have Vez at least with the Eye of Agamotto, but keep your eyes on Vinny, who's waiting to take into an off angle, and specifically Delena, who can have that Glartrox to take everybody off the map.
They walked to the point early. It's like you said, you know, really early into the season, you know, really nobody knows the best comps to play until about like the end of this week. But Jolly on the backside, they already give up the point. 100 Thieves already in control. Jolly frozen after being charmed. All that CC used on him, but they still have to deal with the Glartrox coming up from Delena.
You know it too. Delena's getting a lot more aggressive as everybody's in the line of sight. They've released their Glartrox. They put down the invisible boundary, but it's not going to be enough to say the 3 members of FlyQuest. So that's unfortunately an invisible boundary gone to waste.
Yeah, excellent job from Vinny, who is kind of free on the Van Pool because he gets that mismatch and, you know, drops Banhammer, gets a lot more damage down range than maybe Zelos expected. But also there was too many people, I think, hit by the Glartrox to actually delete it. So, well timed by Delena in 100 Thieves. We'll see if they can keep it up, right? Down that ultimate. They still have the damage boost in these like neutral fights where the Psylocke does a lot more damage than you would think. But 100 Thieves finally have the point first, unlike the previous round.
Even playing off of that slight lag here, having that difference can make a huge difference for FlyQuest to make the comeback. Winnie taking the fight over to Ken, who unfortunately gets dove on. That's one strat out from FlyQuest, really leaving Zelos and Melio, and they do not want to stagger like this with Melio having that ultimate to try to recontest.
Yeah, this actually reminds me of earlier when we watched, you know, Nightmare kind of falter. Like, they're just losing in these weird neutrals where they probably shouldn't. Ken, in that case, on the off angle, got chased down by Delena. 100 Thieves, well-practiced, read it. And, you know, it's tough because you don't want to lose fights without ultimates if you're FlyQuest. So, you know, got caught out in that situation. We'll see if it happens again, because now they finally have their straddles, right? If you had the Dance of Butterflies in the last fight, that could have been big.
Look at 2C, damage boosted 2C, and he does have that dancing butterflies, as you mentioned, Dogman. Self playing around the pillar, getting out of the line of sight, does have the extermination to keep everybody up, as Vinny jumps up from behind, and Delena is finding the demon that was 2C before, shutting this down. Nobody left from FlyQuest to recontest, 99% as it's forced into overtime, and they delete the cap.
Yeah, this is the 100 Thieves we know, right? I mean, just gets the map collapsed at the very end. Didn't even need to break it at the beginning. 100-0 for 100 Thieves. And we go to the next round where, you know, I'm curious if the sidelock works out, because we're going to Imperial Institute of Science, which is a little bit more of an open map. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily favor the Ultron there. It's like at a big deal, like, sorry, at a large effect. But I would favor Delena on this Elsa, who will just kind of be able to run free. And, I mean, like, FlyQuest didn't put up a fight in the last round, Vicky.
Yeah.
They lost
Domination.
every fight.
30 seconds before
Domination, literally. Like, when it comes to this game mode here, Dogman, like, domination, that first fight could determine so much in terms of, like, ult economy, and, like, 100 Thieves in that first round couldn't really find that footing. Meanwhile, on the second round, look at the way that they were able to recontest FlyQuest. They were staggering them. They even jumped Ken, turned them into sushi, and we're going on here to the round 3 where you have more of that verticality that you were talking about.
Excellent reads by 100 Thieves, and very poor placement of, you know, just like this, like what they did in the previous fight for FlyQuest. They kind of went down one after another, but we'll see if that changes around, right? The first round went their way. They had somewhere, I think, for the strategists to really bunker up and play off of that, but it's going to be a lot harder in this round as it does get a little bit more open in terms of space. So, you know, how does 100 Thieves play this? And more importantly, where is FlyQuest going to put their invisible boundary coming up? And does Ken also try to play for his own life, as TTK is off that mag that he was playing earlier, and on the Emma has looked flawless.
And as we go the distance too, you have to imagine what this does for the Vanpool, right? He's got those upgrades already ready to go, as he's one of those characters that like to build up, as Delena has released a glove top, and you have Vez on the receiving end of that weapon. TTK, Psionic Seduction, bringing them all into their line of sight, and FlyQuest are still holding on to these ultimates. Melio looked like has called in that Soul Resurgence, and Zelios comes in with that invisible boundary. A little bit better this time around, but Vinny tries to isolate them with the bubble.
I mean, they're trying to sustain, they're trying to live, but they're still down a member of their team. So the Capful don't touch the point again. This happened before in the previous round, and now Tuzi's going to get picked off. Charcoal, a little bit too late from Ken. Is anything there to counter it? The Ultron's rage is there, so they get nothing. And at this point, they gotta change things up, Vicky. This is not looking good.
Delena is having their way right now, literally sending them back to the spawn root gate, and is still holding up before backing away, because not only do they have the point first, but Delena is just being able to take so much of this momentum and run with it.
Yeah, he's been doing whatever he wants here, right? And I think off of that, TTK swap to the Emma Frost is just sort of stuffed FlyQuest's game plan. Like, it's just given so much space to Delena to pop off and do whatever he wants. So they've had to mix things up, maybe change something. But they don't have straddles, so maybe you can set up 2Z. However, it's quite the distance. Look how far back they're playing. You have to use every cooldown to even get close.
And with 2C using the Dance of the Cutterflies, look at the protection from 100 Thieves. Unfazed and getting no value if you're 2C. Melio's also getting focused, by the way, as Vinny now comes over to the side. Meteor M goes up as Vest goes down onto Delena. The biggest target priority, following up with TTK. That's making big moves as FlyQuest were able to put the point back in their favor.
Yeah, that's, you talked about Vest being that star player that he has to be for this team, or that I guess he always is, but the team still somehow loses. Nice job from Vest, because that was kind of hopeless, right? Like, they were sent all the way far back. That's the problem with, you know, not earning the space that you are given, right? Like, he had to use every cooldown to get in, and 100 Thieves obviously expected it, patty caked it, lived it. Now this upcoming fight, though, right, you go on the ultimate advantage. Yes, Vest got those KOs, but it cost them the Meteor and it cost them the Dance of the Butterflies. Let's see if they can live with the Shadows now. That's the crucial factor, as Delena's been brutal every single time with the large drops.
And the disruption, too, onto the backline from Jolly, who's trying their best to try to split that up from 100 Thieves. Delena has that Glartrox, and they see that Zealous has already called in that invisible boundary. It's up to Melio to see how they're going to be able to try to utilize the Soul Resurgence on the other receiving end, as Vest falls so incredibly low, brings him back up to health, finds another snipe, this time out to Vinny, as Self has the extermination, but held on to it. So the 100 Thieves are going to hold on to these folks in general to go in for a reset, because FlyQuest are nearing 70%.
Yeah, and they're going to
stagger.
They need this. They absolutely need this stagger. And 100 Thieves, their game plan was immediately, okay, they used Invis, they used Mantis. Okay, we have the ultimate advantage next fight. But we've seen out of teams, Vicky, earlier, you know, you can throw that advantage away slowly but surely, like Nightmare earlier. You know, for FlyQuest's side, sure, they don't have a lot of ultimates, but they're going to build the Dance of the Butterflies. If the 100 Thieves overcommit or don't find anything with the Glortrox, I might get worried if I'm a 100 Thieves fan.
It's looking grim, but at 95%, they're looking to recontest, and FlyQuest really only have Ken to make a big It's Jeff move, as 2C also looking to try to utilize the Dance of the Butterfly. Smelly trying to go for a flank, and it's by Delena. 2C gets revenge for himself, gets the Dance of the Butterfly, but is answered by the Fate of Bolt Force from Millennia, who was holding on to it.
Yeah, they get the dance floor out. Self's not going to be here, and with that Ultron's Rage, so that's big. Ken's ultimate, he's just going to use it to live. Maybe trying to avoid all that damage. Delena's still here on the objective, though, but they are missing Self. Oh my goodness, 2Z gets deleted by that right click from Delena, who hunts him down with the Deadpool team-up. Jolly just trying to stall things out, and oh my goodness, it's a reset. 100 Thieves have control.
Now everybody seeing this understands what we mean when it comes to making sure that the server admin Elsa currently doesn't have free reign, because Delena's having so much impact and getting these raw picks. It's even scarier in comparison to some teams that want to force out the Gambit, which was the first that we saw banned out. Daredevil 2 from the other side, actually. That was a prio pick, as 100 Thieves are working with what they have. Winnie does have that ultimate ready to go on the White Fox. Nice little bubble as Vet tries to push up and has that Meteor M.
Yeah, slowly walk out. He's a lot of pressure on him. Has to anchor the point. Has to find a big ultimate. He has to also counter the Ultron's Rage coming up in a second. Jolly trying to force it out. He does, but does he live? No. Oh, no. He had to live. Meteor M a little bit late and doesn't connect either. Oh wait, trade it though. They get rid of Delena. Sure, you don't find anything with the Meteor M, but that ultimate's too late from that Fox. The White Fox ultimate gonna get taken out. Invis boundary's perfect. Millennia gets stolen upon, but does have the drone. Eventually goes down. Didn't even have damage boost and got it done. Melio's there with the follow-up, and no way. Slowly but surely they're getting it done. Here comes the Deadpool. Trying to bounce, trying to get those upgrades, and the portal is here.
Looking at Mario's character, the way he's trying to jump around and try to prolong, which is an info, but 2C is going crazy. The Doctor Strange portal comes in next. They're finding all these prio picks. Overtime ticking away. Is FlyQuest about to take a map off of 100 Thieves? TTK, Silent Seduction, they flip the point back in their favor, and 2C still has a Dance of the Butterfly.
Are you kidding me? Overtime's ticking down. They lose Jolly. No way. Delena, who came back on the Doctor Strange, close to that ultimate, has now tried to take the Zard of the Joe, but he's got eaten by Ken. He got eaten by Ken. He's pulled away. Can they find him? He's swimming away. Run, Ken. He takes out 3. He takes out 3 and 2. He's there with the Dance of the Butterflies in celebration because FlyQuest. Oh my goodness. There's just one left. This invisible woman, and she's gone back into the pit of hell. FlyQuest wins map 1.
FlyQuest, more like main quest. They heard us. They heard everybody at home and said 100 Thieves, they're the ones stealing the win here. FlyQuest take map number 1. Are you kidding me?
Well, last game of the day, you know, who needs a Red Bull? Also on top of that, let's give you some 5-hour energy. Let's give you all of the caffeine in the world, give you a heart attack, because that's what we just got. In essence, 2Z's your MVP, and wow, FlyQuest, what a performance there. Strong mentals, iron mentals. Now, Vicky, does that shatter the mentals of 100 Thieves? Because what an unexpected map 1.
My brain is shattered right now. What did we just witness? 2C, 19 finals. Delena had 19 finals too, but it was the impact of the rest of FlyQuest to come back in. Ken with an MVP play. What cinematic first game to open this series. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, dog, man. I cannot believe it. Honestly, I was thinking to myself, all right, do I get some coffee? You know, we're going the distance maybe. You know, it's this last series. Well, guess what? I'm gonna get that coffee when we come out of this break coming up shortly, because 2C right now, 34-7. Look at this. Following up with Vez, too, who got the 9 final hits, dog, man.
Yeah, what a Chad, man. Oh, my goodness. What a play. And overall, like I straight up... I'm starting to be a believer in, like, well, I mean, I've already kind of been anti-triple. I know they said that's the meta potentially for next week. A lot of the pros did. But I feel like it's just not proactive. Like, I really don't. Like, it feels like the Ultron you have to play back. And Self, we know him as a player that likes to play aggressive, likes to set up plays like we saw 2Z do. And just when you play the Ultron, it feels like you're stagnant. And the Mantis Band going back at it seems to be the catalyst because it's, as you mentioned, I mean, 2Z was just farming them with that damage boost.
I am like appalled right now. I was there. We were there. FlyQuest take the map versus 100 Thieves. This is insane to see as we get set up here. Wait to see what the second map is going to be looking like. But before we throw it over to Brick to make sure everybody is ready, we have to see what 100 Thieves is thinking. Because also, like, Dogman, as a former player yourself, like, what does this do to your mental? We're going to have to find out. You know, you can answer us when we come out of this break. We got to get calm and collected. We'll come back for game number 2 on the other side.
Blinding shining lights, oh, I feel it skipping way out of control. Lock in, oh yeah, we won't stop it. Flying high, it's our destiny, lighting up flaming stars. We're reaching out towards victory. 눈부신 꿈으로 차가운 심장을 쥐고 더 높게 날아가. They can't catch my vibe and my life. All eyes, we're dancing on the moonlight. 손이 가버려, turning up the heat. Get it, we're switching up the lip gloss, mixing up the crystals. All they want to know how we do it. Now it's time we switch to flight mode. Yeah, 차올라 내 눈빛 봐, 불부터 나 ready now. 떨림이 번져가 이 밤 위로 올라타. 거침없이 난 dive, 겁없이 뛰어가 flight mode. Be breath free, shining, flying higher. Feel the spark of flight mode. 우리 하늘 위로 더 rise up. 사라져, fade away, moonlight. Gonna burn the night out. Every time my heart's flight, we go higher, eyes wide, right through the starlights. 차가운 공기 속을 realize 지금이야, take flight. We're dancing on the moonlight. 손을 꺼버려, turning up the heat. Get it, we're switching up the lip gloss, mixing up the crystals. All they want to know how we do it. Now it's time we switch to flight mode. Wake up, feel it. This I'm switching to
Welcome back, everyone. I really hope 2Z has a good physical therapist on speed dial because he's going to need it after that carry. Man, that damage boost to Psylocke was clinical. FlyQuest taking this first map. Yes, you heard me. I'm not mixing up the team names. It is, in fact, FlyQuest taking that first map off of 100 Thieves. And I think a lot of that just came down to, like, insane individual performances. Like, those were heroic moments.
I mean, honestly, sorry to interrupt you, Vicky. I know you wanted to say something.
No.
It's like, I feel like, you know, that meme where we're seeing like the coffin dance, you know, like we were like bringing it out for FlyQuest already. We were like, okay, we'll do the coffin dance ready for FlyQuest's demise. But it was the Uno Reverso other meme, you know, call an ambulance, but not for me, because 100 Thieves look like they're the washed up team right now.
Dude, 2C and Delena 1v1 was crazy. You know what it gives me, like, flashbacks of? I don't think we're gonna see it. It depends on, like, what the pick and ban phase is. But why is it, like, a part of me want to see, like, the Psylocke 1v1? Like, you know, the ego check real quick? Like, 2C going crazy. Delena can't do more. What is going on here? FlyQuest actually managing to take a map off of 100 Thieves. We've only seen 100 Thieves, like, once, right? And then you take a look at, like, FlyQuest. I don't think they've won a map, like, a single time. Like, a single time in the last 2 series that we've seen them. Not against the MRC team, Cafe Rose. They didn't take a map against Sentinels yesterday. And now we see them take the first map, their first map win against 100 Thieves. What is going on?
And it's crazy because round 2 was so one-sided in 100 Thieves' favor. So after round 2, I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, round 1 was a fluke. It's okay. Like, 100 Thieves are in control. But even in round 3, for a lot of it, 100 Thieves look really, really strong there, obviously, with like Delena doing like the Lord's work on that Elsa, getting away with like literally everything, getting so many great pickups in the neutral, just like constantly pushing the opposition back there. But man, FlyQuest, they're stringing things together. I also just really feel like this composition worked really well for them.
It did. It really did. And I think that's like what Vicky said. I mean, it's because they have Tuzi and you can play around them, right? It's excellent play out of the whole team. And, you know, we'll see how it goes moving forward. Like, I feel like this kind of is like an overarching macro situation. Like, it feels like nobody knows the meta, right? And that's why this weekend was crazy, right? Nobody understands it. And then everybody thinks they understand it. So then they're all having like massive egos on Twitter talking about how, oh, I know the meta. You're crazy for not knowing the meta. But nobody knows the meta. Everybody is stupid, okay? You don't have to be...
Everyone's a liar.
Everyone's a liar, okay? We're all dumb. You can join us in the dumb pool of people because... I mean, listen, everything's going to change up next week. Like, we'll probably see a complete different comp next week with the White Fox changes.
That's true. I agree. Because then you're like, okay, then where do you go into when it comes to our second map, right? Like, you did this on Dom. We always mentioned how volatile Dom is. Obviously, we're on the pre-patch of the White Fox changes and the Elsa nerfs, but we're moving ahead here with 100 Thieves, like, really only having that one series to, like, look back on, which went to a Game 5. Can FlyQuest even replicate this domination onto a different game mode is the biggest question mark, right? Or will this be another Nightmare 2.0 situation?
Okay, they're taking us to Midtown here. That is, of course, 100 Thieves map choice, and FlyQuest did win this first one. How do you feel about Midtown?
I think this is a very good 100 Thieves map. You know, I think in the past we've seen them excel on it. But that's also all the 100 Thieves. The interesting part, I think, of Ignite now is that this is the perfect time, I think, for our viewers to be tuning in because, you know, we've had a lot of roster shakeups, you know, a lot of storylines, I think, going into the year. But everything is flipped on their heads when, like you mentioned earlier, Zoe, with freaking Vest being the last one on FlyQuest after that mid-season and then everything shaking up. This is the perfect time to get invested, I think, for our viewers. And Midtown was a known map for 100 Thieves. But it's new 100 Thieves, and they just lost map number 1, so do we really even understand this team right now? I don't know.
Vicky's like, I don't.
Vicky's like, you lost me. Like, you lost me earlier.
But no, 100 Thieves also played things a little different than what we saw against Energy Shock. So they definitely like tried some different stuff out. I don't think they had Ultron in the mix. That seems to be the flavor of the day today. Do you expect them to kind of run it back? Like, what compositions do you want to see them on?
I kind of want to see, if you're FlyQuest at least in this case, I want to see, like, 2C continuously being enabled, right? Because it could get a little difficult. Once again, like we saw, I mean, we could see, like, what ping they're playing on, maybe being able to find, like, a better server for them to find that middle ground. But if you could try to enable 2C in that 1v1 that we're going to keep seeing between 2C versus Delena, where's this impact? How is the backline going to survive? Ken, by the way, did get that really crazy It's Jeff. But how far can you get away with this, right? If we're moving on to Midtown, you usually see that triple Vanguard hold up on the defensive side. We've been seeing a different iteration where sometimes it's that triple strat instead. How comfortable do you feel playing on that triple strat if we do see that coming out, depending if it's going to be 100 Thieves versus FlyQuest? Where is that flexibility, right? Kind of goes back to the topic that we keep highlighting throughout the course of today, which is playing Hero Mania, being able to pull basically a hero out of these bag of tricks to make sure that you can showcase that flexibility.
It also always bodes well, right? When you have one particular hero that really stood out, that really like caused trouble in that first map, then you kind of turn the enemy's ban strat like upside down, because then suddenly they feel like, oh, we do have to prioritize that. Like, do we really want them to get away with a Mantis pick? Maybe not, because then they're enabling a Tuzi on a different level, right? So like, now you might have to adjust your bans that you initially had kind of like mapped out already for the series.
Yeah, you can't go in with a plan, I think, is what we're kind of coming to terms with.
Like, the plan is not to have a plan.
Yeah, kind of, a little bit. Like, you have to be flexible, like we mentioned, but it is an incredibly difficult task for all these squads. But a lot of them are sort of gravitating, I feel like, towards that triple composition like we've seen, whether it be triple with Mantis, whether it be triple with Ultron, sometimes with the Adam Warlock like we saw. But, you know, maybe the shoe doesn't fit sometimes, Zoe. Like, sometimes you can't play triple strategist all the time because, oh, well, we fell off from Mantis with the damage boost, like Vicky was mentioning, giving that to Tuzi, but we don't have that anymore once we lose the Mantis. I don't think we can just transition that same playstyle over to the Ultron.
Yeah, I agree. it's gonna be a whole lot harder, right? Because even though if you have that extra damage impact, you're gonna have to rely on the extermination too, and seeing how quickly you can get that. And let's go back to the pick and ban phase. A change up, even though FlyQuest did win that first map, of course, again, domination. It went down to the wire in that round 3, but a change up would be, are we gonna keep Prio banning the Daredevil / Gambit? Can we look at what Delena's impact is and maybe take care of the Elsa instead? You know, maybe they feel like it's still a threat with the Raging Royal Flush, but obviously with Delena getting so much impact, what was it, like slightly with like 19 final hits that we saw, did almost like 38k damage on the Elsa alone, was obviously a problem in comparison to like everybody else. Vinny was doing a good job on the Vamp pool, but comparatively to everybody else on 100 Thieves, that was the #1 problem because it also forced a lot of staggers.
Yeah, that was pretty much the case already in their match against Energy Shock, right? Like, Delena on the Elsa was like the bright spot. It was like the issue on the table. So I'd be surprised to see an Elsa slipping through it, especially because FlyQuest, we've not really seen them utilizing the Elsa, so there's no reason for them to, like, you know, ignore it. So they could have that in a ban priority pretty high up, probably.
This goes to show, I think, to all of our players that are like, man, we got Elsa gapped or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't matter, right? Like, I feel like, you know, for as good as Delena was in that last map, they still took the L, right? Like, that's kind of crazy. So you can't really carry with one character. And I think going to that, maybe, I don't know, maybe they're right about the macro of it, but I'm kind of leaning still towards Vicky, where it's like we're going over to a map where Elsa dominates. Like, I think Midtown is not a great dive map. It's super long range, and Delena's popped off there before. I'm a little worried for FlyQuest.
Me
So
too.
Elsa
While we get
must
everything
go.
set ready too. The Elsa server and admin
out.
still is a problem here, Zoe.
Yeah, I see we are heading to Midtown, as you said, convoy map next. And yeah, we're, of course, still waiting for what the teams have in store. I'm also just, like, actually baffled at the fact that FlyQuest, 3 of their players are playing on ping.
Yep.
And they managed to, like, make this look so good. If FlyQuest is taking this serious, like, how does our idea of this group shift? Because then we're looking at 100 Thieves at an 0-2 in week 1.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It's scary to bring that up because it could very well happen.
Did not mean
Well,
to scare you.
Well, I'm only scared because I got into a tussle with the 100 Thieves fans before for no reason, because they thought I was too biased against their team.
That seems like a you thing to do. Not gonna lie.
Okay, that is. But I like them. I like 100 Thieves' chances, except if they go down 0-2 this week, not a good look, obviously. But I still believe on Midtown they're a very good team on that map, based on how they played. It depends on what FlyQuest does in that sort of ban phase for sure. But I think we could agree that, like, the ban phases are kind of similar to what we've seen throughout the whole tournament, in that Elsa, like you said, Vicky, is server admin.
Yeah, now our teams do need an extra minute, so we, of course, are happy to give that to them. We're heading into a break, and when we're back, we're hopefully going to have map number 2 ready for all of you.
Hold still. I'm trying to help.
Lights out. Suffer in the darkness. Let's pop back up under their noses. Us against the world.
My time to shine.
Well, if you missed day one and day two, we are here to fill you in. Starting with day one, Chip. I mean, we saw kind of the debut for a lot of these teams. Some of them knocking off the rust, others coming right into the new form of what roster mania is. Day one has come and gone. Day two, though, you were the caster of it, man. What did you see? What were some words to describe it?
Sure, I'll keep it quick. I think teams started waking up. We saw them actually perform and step into their shoes a little bit and shake off some of those nerves. A lot of the series going to game 3, and they were much more intense than I thought from day one.
Well, listen, man, let's go and kick it off with Nightmare versus Yeah, We Lost. And this was a close one. I mean, the word to describe the first match was probably the closest match right there with it that we've seen in Ignite yet, or at least this year too. Both these teams kind of flex that they are the dive ones. But what did you see breaking it down? Because there's a lot to highlight.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, like you said, very close, 99-99 on Dom on map 3, off the rip. And even then, there was ultimates coming in at the end that almost looked like it was going to sway it back in the favor of Yeah, We Lost. Nightmare did look super solid. A lot of these similar comps. Jeff was seeing a ton of play. We even saw Spider-Man, Venom, all the stuff you would expect. Psylocke was in there too. Daredevil went available. I mean, these teams are just very aggro, but they are incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it looked like Vision he did not miss a step from last year. Vision was just popping off. And I felt like Nightmare had a very good control of that going forward. And then, Yeah, We Lost. They just came back into form. And I have to give them credit because they didn't struggle in the MRC. And sometimes when that's your practice and then you go into something like this, like you're kind of not used to being down. Also, Jitward, we got to see the Deadpool, which is always fun. And, we'll see how long that kind of lasts as things have been patched and, approached a little bit. But do you think they have a good step moving forward? A lot of people had them high in their rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are confident right now, too.
Welcome back, one and all. We are still awaiting the beginnings of Map 2 after FlyQuest took that first one away from 100 Thieves. A phenomenal performance across the board from that team with lots of individual heroics and highlight reels. I am very, very excited to see what both of these teams are going to adjust to on that second map. We already talked a little bit about our expectations for the ban phase here. Generally, obviously, like having a longer break here as a player, is that an opportunity to overcook here, Dogman?
It might be for sure. Like, I mean, like, that you could potentially be tilted about a potential server selection. Like, there's all that situation going into your heads. But you just can't overthink it. You just got to pick the right heroes that work for you. And based on what we saw in the last map, we probably want to try to prioritize keeping that Mantis again. It is tough because that would mean that we're going to see that Elsa go through. And then, it's like you're just like trying to argue about whether you want to get a different type of pizza or whatever. Like, it's like, what you really want at the end of the day. Why are we having this discussion,
Yeah, it's definitely super deep strategic plays here. We get to witness in each of those matches as the teams are figuring out their own game style or play style rather, as well as, of course, their opponents. So things have to be very fluid, very open.
Yeah, you think about too, like getting iced out, right? Because momentum is everything. I like to call it out as it is because it's a long delay and you want to be able to get fired up and get right back into the action. But to be completely transparent to everybody wondering what's taking so long, it's just about selecting the server that they're going to be playing on. We keep mentioning it with 3 players on FlyQuest playing on ping. It's about finding that middle ground between these two teams to make that decision to come to an ending point here to figure out what this next map is going to look like, because currently FlyQuest in this best of 3 are sitting at match point, Dogman.
Yeah, match point and FlyQuest, they've looked good in the past on these map types, but they have to really come to terms with the fact that, like you mentioned, there's 3 people on ping, and it's always going to be a discussion over what server you have to play. Because playing on ping in Marvel Rivals is not easy. Like you'll have, especially for the projectile characters, your aim is going to be even more delayed, and it can really throw off a lot of your synchronization in terms of like your aim and all that sort of stuff.
And of course, we do hope that none of these delays are impacting the momentum of the team here. Both teams are still looking to get their first victory on the board here in our opening week. FlyQuest currently leading the charge 1-0. Can 100 Thieves tie it up, or will FlyQuest run away with it?
Vicky, what do you think? I'm thinking this is going to be an extended series, and we're actually going to have to stay past 12 o'clock. It's going to be past midnight, and the series is finally going to end 9 to 8. What am I gonna say?
Well, it's a good thing that I'm on complete degen schedule because it goes hand in hand with the way that I be gaming too late. You already know how it is, dog man. We banned out the Elsa. We've learned her lesson, and we also obviously come to an agreement in the what server we're going into because I actually heard through the grapevine that I believe 100 Thieves wanted the Dallas server over the Virginia server that we just played on in that last game, and we're gonna have to see how that is influenced into FlyQuest and the way that they approach this because it does make it easier for 2C to pop off. And as he's hovering over that Venom, we do get to protect over that Van pool. So no Elsa, no Gambit for 100 Thieves. Whereas 100 Thieves wanted a prio, the Loki protect, and because they prioed that first, that means that they won't have the Gambit because it had allowed FlyQuest to get that second ban next.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of teams take us to like Shin Shibuya and stuff where, you see that type of hero, but the Mantis getting removed based on what we saw in the last series, I think adds up. But for FlyQuest, what do they want to do, right? Because they've already gone for that Elsa ban and the Gambit, does that change up their playstyle now? What do they want to go next? Do we want to go towards that Van pool? Nope. Going to be towards that Mantis, so they don't want to necessarily get that one-sided matchup. More than likely, we'll see 100 Thieves go for that Protect towards the very end unless they want to change it up. But this is more in line, I think, what we saw today out of our previous matches based on how they performed.
Yeah, the call it though on getting the Loki Protect though when they saw that 100 Thieves had banned out the Gambit, which means you will not get the double Raging Royal Flush. I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. Of course, since we are moving on to Convoy, the Invisible Woman Hover, it's going to be the next ban, so you will not have the double Invisible Boundary coming out online if you get that God of Mischief copy.
Yeah, I guess this is what we've seen at the end too. Invis into Wolverine Protect, so we can play the Wolverine, and we don't want that Invis on the opposite side. Does that mean FlyQuest go for the Invis ban too? Like, maybe just like, based on what we've seen earlier, we could see that. The group ban would kind of make sense, actually, with the Loki and stuff, and also based on the fact that you want to play group probably, but that still leaves, Wolverine open for both sides. However, Groot not available for 100 Thieves. Meanwhile, FlyQuest can't play the Invisible Woman, so they would have to rely on, that Fade for Zelos or Magneto Bubbles. So this should be unique. I think it's a very interesting end to this ban phase, but 100 Thieves, the fact they get to play Wolverine is nice based on what we've seen earlier, and a lot of really good Wolverine players take the stage.
And Vanpool, right? Because we know how Vanpool likes to scale throughout the course of these games, and since we are on Convoy, that we can go the distance, and it makes it even better for Vanpool to get those upgrades over the long term. And seeing how this is going to work out, right? FlyQuest just getting set up. Melio going to be able to load in shortly. And Vez looking like they're going to be the ones hovering over that Vanpool with Jolly rolling out on the Magneto. You talk about the Magneto getting those bubbles. It's going to be important for Zelos to be able to get away with this, but at least they won't really have to worry too much, aside from Self that could get a kidnap out of the Eternal Bond onto that Cloak and Dagger.
They're thinking hard too, Vicky. Like, they're going over to Melio to the Namor. He was hovering Bucky at a point. I'm curious how 2Z does without the Mantis damage boost, reliant more on the Terra Cape from Zelos for that damage boost. But they know they're going to be playing that Thing composition to try to counter any potential dive for FlyQuest. But regardless, they still had to think heavily about it. Starting off, though, 100 Thieves is on the attack with that Phoenix alongside their Loki Invis backline.
Ooh, 2C though gets called out immediately by Delena. Says it's fine. I don't need the Elsa. I could be just as explosive in dealing with so much of this damage impact. Millennia then finds Vest. 2 out originally from the side of FlyQuest with 2C coming back. It's a lot of damage output here, but they have to look behind them. The Squids are also there, and Melio is the next victim. 100 Thieves, they're upset, and they're clearing the point while painting a path for themselves to that next checkpoint.
I'm curious what they run after this, because I don't know. Personally, I'm not a big fan of playing Psylocke into 100 Thieves comp. I mean, they have Invis, they have Loki to peel. 2C's going to hard shoot tanks, I suppose, but he needs to not get picked off like that previous fight. It's always tough against a full counter dive composition from 100 Thieves, and they're already fronting to back their way towards the very end with 3 minutes left.
Melio making that swap up to the Punisher with Jolly taking so much damage. The kidnap, somebody save him, but nobody could out-heal that damage impact. Vinny booting him out too. and finding that next pick here as the
nice from Tusi.
ultimate comes in, and Tusi isolates Winnie. Tusi getting a really big pick off here, could flip this script, and Tusi unfortunately gets called out by TTK because the TTK Emma is out. And with the Silent Seduction and Millennia with the invisible boundary, it's too much sustain. They're looking to try to recontest, but with right now 100 Thieves just being able to get to the point, there was no stall.
Yeah, and can also use the Loki copy too. Oh god. Oh, that's pretty
yikes.
bad. He's going over the Jeff at the very least. They're going to switch to full dive, and I think that makes sense. Like, first point, it's tough. I don't know, man. Like, just playing Psylocke, I don't even know how he got Winnie. Like, Winnie's movement must have been terrible there. Like, he had all cooldowns up, and Winnie just doesn't teleport away or use shift or right-click. Like, he's got everything and just gets two-tapped by Tusi without damage boost. That's pretty embarrassing. But for 100 Thieves, they at least don't have ultimates used in the previous fight like Ken did, and they're also still pushing forward at such a blistering pace that I guess I would autopilot too in that situation.
And with 4 minutes to go, they're going to be able to just hold forward because Delena's the one that's dictating a lot, and Self being on this Wolverine is going to be so destructive. Look at Zelos taking an off-angle position. Already used up that BRB, it looked like here too. Gonna have to boost up into that Sia shortly to follow up with Tusi and the Dance of the Butterflies. Melio is on that Daredevil though. That's another pinpoint as the God of Mischief comes out in the form of the Invisible Woman. You have the Invisible Boundary ready to go. Just waiting it out shortly because right now FlyQuest in a contest on this point. They're so close to that second checkpoint, but he brings him back, kind of forces out the recontest, and Winnie finds Jolly. That's 3 out for FlyQuest. 100 Thieves. They're mad. They're looking to speedrun, and look at this time bank. You still have 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, this is when we talk about, you know, teams being dive-focused, dive-centric. That's what FlyQuest is, right? At the moment, they're trying to play dive, and there's nobody touch the payload, right? There's nobody touch the objective moving forward. And, you know, if you go there, you're dead. Just like we've seen Jolly feed multiple times over and over again. It's not necessarily his fault. Playing dive on Convoy or Convergence is always going to be a struggle, unless you're on, like, that first point where things are very, very centralized. It's not been easy, because Self just gets that chuck from Vinny and then can just kind of grab anybody he wants. Also, they just sort of secure the payload the whole time. So, look at this. It's just been moving non-stop. Barely anybody's touched. Finally, we use ults.
Yeah, this is one of those really tricky chokes too, where once you get held here, it can be difficult to make a comeback. And I like the way that FlyQuest were at least able to recontest the first time they hold back 100 Thieves, because with this 4-minute time bank, it is dwindling down. But look at Delena, does have a reset as well as TTK with a Sonic Seduction. As Self is waiting from the side, looking to see if they could try to get a kidnap. But with the Dance of the Butterflies, Tusi's trying to isolate them, and it still finds Millennia.
Yeah, that was well timed. I mean, perfectly timed that in terms of the ultimate. The follow-up was there. Used the See You Later earlier. They didn't use anything. Right Self just wanted to get some positioning, maybe try to get the kidnap or something. But you use that ultimate, you set him back to spawn, and you just got to keep setting up these dives without getting picked off, right? Melio, who is now on the Phoenix, can try to match on the opposite side of the map, Delena. But regardless, you're still trying to play dive. Oh my goodness, Delena just got 3-tapped by Melio. What the hell was that?
Oh my, okay, well, Delena back to the drawing board. Delena, every time they go around that left side corner, it's just been absolute execution. Putting them in the microwave, quite literally, and with 100 Thieves at least coming right back around to follow up, Jolly has a survivability with the Freedom Charge.
It really feels like 100 Thieves are like kind of on autopilot, right? Like we're just going down in weird situations. Invisible Boundary to counter the Phoenix on the opposite side. Did he use anything else? It looks like Vest did use the Deadpool ultimate. So it was 1, or actually 2 for 2 in that last fight, and they still want to stall. FlyQuest are trying to get more out. Delena's going to commit the Phoenix ultimate to counter the cap in a weird situation, but luckily that burn kind of goes through the walls regardless.
I do have to give a shout out MVP to Millennia, who had great reaction time, knowing that they wanted to completely dive on them. The It's Jeff, can they stop them as the protection comes in? They cannot get the kidnap here, and the It's Jeff is running away. Ken kind of sending them over to the left side, and Delena getting some revenge onto Tusi. The BRB will bring Tusi back at the very least. That Dance of the Butterfly is very close to being online, but they will have to deal with Winnie getting the copy onto Millennia with an invisible boundary.
Yeah, this is getting really messy. 1v1 on the high ground, meanwhile between Melio and Delena. He had to fall back towards the main side. Jolly trying to distract. Here comes that Wolverine ultimate. Did it even connect on anybody? Might have been Vess, but he's got that heart pocket, so that goes to waste, sadly. Tusi does fall to Delena, though. He's been hunted down on the high ground by Delena.
Oh, they're calling him out. Melio's trying to get away. They're trying to use the comms to call out where Melio is, but with the Sia, Sellers actually brings it back to health. So is Vinny, though, rallying up the troops of 100 Thieves to try to steal this victory and get this payload to the finish ground. with the freedom charge, though, leading everybody forward. Self fights fast. The BRB is getting so much impact, and the dance the Cutterfly. Can it find its mark? No, Zealous is getting harassed, and nobody's looking at Delena.
The fact that he's lived so long, kind of crazy. Delena finally taken out by Tuzi, so there was at least one person. Passive used. Self also needs to keep going off. Vest, poor guy, keeps having to anchor the cart, and nobody's going to anchor versus TTK. Job
Wow.
done. 1 minute and 25 seconds left. 100 Thieves cap out.
You know, it's serious when the TTK Emma comes out on board and starts choke slamming and getting so much damage done off that beam, which is at 100 almost consistently through that right side once they broke through that spawn hole choke. This is the 100 Thieves that we're used to seeing, right? You could take away the Elsa from Delena, but that's fine. We've seen Delena pop off so many times already in the past, Dogman, and also pinpointing the threat that has been Tusi, preventing Tusi from getting actually set up, and it looks like Tusi had enough, also going over to the Phoenix.
I think it is interesting, too, because we saw so much prioritization towards the Ultron earlier, but they're just not wanting to play it anymore. They're just not confident in how either Self plays it or whatever, but they're playing the triple defense. And considering it's like you mentioned, like TTK on the Emma was sort of that just counter to whatever FlyQuest were doing dive-wise, and it's always gonna be tough. Like we said, I mean, dive on Convergence and Convoy. There's like only a few maps you could do it, you know, on the Deadpool map and stuff. But realistically, this is not the map to do it, and you can see exactly why 100 Thieves just walked down FlyQuest really without falter.
I never called myself that.
The way that this series has been going already, though, Dogman, no one really predicted this. I hope everybody's awake, ready to pay attention, because FlyQuest have a mountain to climb. At least 100 Thieves have that minute and 25 seconds. Will it be enough here as FlyQuest try to get this payload to that finish line, too? Zelos on that Cloak and Dagger, just trying to make sure that they get enough of that extra healing, too. And gonna see if they can try to paint that path with the Eternal Bond. Jolly as well on that Groot. It's great, too, because they don't really have to worry about TTK having that Emma beam at the 100 on top of the Groot wall.
They're going to play full front-to-back style. It's on TTK to not go down or Self on the height. But he wants to keep that pressure up, obviously, and they want him to by hard pocketing him, making sure he uses cooldowns to stay up there. Vinny's even coming to help out. Cart's still pushing forward, by the way, still in charge of FlyQuest's command. But they still kind of have to press on forward. These strats are building ultimates in the meanwhile. Vinny gets pressured but has to back up, and Self still control the height. Going to do a ton of damage here. Ultimate's going to be built up maybe shortly for the defensive side or offensive, because Ken's 80% towards that copy. So maybe they play slow, try to build it, and then go in, but maybe it's red because, oh, Tuzi goes down.
Oh, that's unfortunate. And Tuzi was trying to take an off angle. Huge on Vinny, though, to be able to get into the position right there. Winnie, too, being able to have so many off angles with the clones. Delena finding Ken before he could get into the safety of the spawn room gates. And 100 Thieves are holding back FlyQuest all the way in the doors.
Yeah, good for Delena, man, considering how, you know, in the past, for 100 Thieves, I think it's always been the dialogue around Terra. But now, you know, after Terra left, it's definitely been more focused about Delena. In this case, they're still down 0-1 so far through the tournament. We'll see if they can turn that around. Copy still available for the offense. Will they make a play? Everybody's stunned temporarily by 100 Thieves on the high ground due to TTK.
Karmic Revival was also almost online for Delena. TTK has been a menace, but they swat the Mosquito with Melio and those claws, and they bring him right back. Karmic Revival gonna be able to have Delena move into a different off angle. You see the Lantern forced out. Melio, though, gets the kidnap, finds Delena, has to prevent this passive from coming off.
It's a very slow team on offense versus this triple composition, interestingly enough. The res does come out. Invis boundary, they walk right into it. Vest goes low and falls. This is what we saw in the defense as well. Jesus.
The way that he was able to break his ankles too and get the sub revive before getting the head after head, this time on Zelos. No Cloak and Dagger, no Eternal Bond, and with the copy, Winnie also gets the get ready, set, go button, because rise again, my friends. 100 Thieves get to play extra aggressive. Now you're down to a minute and less than 35 seconds on the clock. Although FlyQuest, they do have some ultimates online, Dogman, but I feel like they just haven't really been able to capitalize off of these strat ults that they also were using.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, I understand the cooldowns are incredibly strong for 100 Thieves side, but if, I don't know, I'm just wondering how FlyQuest choked this, right? Like, it just seems like they have the entire, you know, all the advantages, and they need to not lose it. Here comes that Emma Frost ultimate by Vest. Can we keep Vest alive for more than 2 seconds? No. Nope. This is looking a lot like Mace from earlier on Nightmare. Like, how are we up this many people, ultimates and everything, and we're going down? Melio slam dunks everybody in the background, though. Finally, they've gotten something going. Ken goes down, no res here either, so finally, this might be the end, but we're committing also to Tuzi's ultimate, so now it's turning from an underinvestment ultimate to potentially overinvestment.
And that was with Self still getting the Meteor M onto the Eternal Bond too, it looked like. So being able to try to slam it down, FlyQuest get to excel, and they painted the path here, even after losing on that mission. But the TTK stall comes in, and they finally brute force their way at least through this lane, but there is going to be a recontention from 100 Thieves.
Yeah, with ultimates too, I mean, we have to do something about Vinny. You know, Invisible Woman banned for FlyQuest, so he should be able to get this off for free, especially with no Magneto for FlyQuest's side. Meanwhile, Jolly with Melio, this has to be big. Jolly as well with the ultimate could go huge. Suit tries to follow up his Wolverine in the sky. Connects onto Vinny, who has the ultimate. They get saved by the Invisible Boundary, and Delena's found Vess already. Clobbering time is huge, but they're in the Invisible Boundary and heal up.
He got melted down after the clobbering time, and with the Eye of Agamotto, 100 Thieves, they are clearing the point. They are telling FlyQuest, don't worry, you could have this Dom, but we're coming with the comeback. No portal play, no recontention from Vez, and 100 Thieves. They stop FlyQuest from even getting one checkpoint on Midtown.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think based on what we saw from FlyQuest on the defense, I mean, you're trying to play dive, you're trying to do something, and then they go to that front-to-back style, not even with the Moon Knight, not even with the Storm. You know, you can't find anything onto the high ground because they're hard-pocketed. Sure, there was some slight mistakes out of 100 Thieves. I think there was some autopiloting going on, obviously. Like, Delena got 3-tapped third point. Winnie got comboed by a Psylocke with that damage boost. Like, that did happen. But, I mean, that's maybe the fault of 100 Thieves, right? Maybe that's their main weakness is themselves, right? Like, it feels like every time 100 Thieves were to lose a team fight, it was primarily because of themselves. They did something stupid. Meanwhile, for FlyQuest, they just kept losing Vest after every single fight. And if we're going to dish out the same amount of dialogue we had over Mace, it's kind of the same thing here, right? Like, Vest is without the team, it feels like a lot of the time. And whether that's on Vest or the squad, that's kind of on them to figure out.
That's why I dwelled back on like that Nightmare topic point, because it's kind of repeating itself just in a different form, where this is the 100 Thieves instead of like the Space Station games that we saw earlier on today. 2C, unfortunately, you know, cannot do more, even making that swap over to the Bucky, making you also wonder, like, is this going to be the duelist lineup that you want to rely on in comparison to what we saw from TTK and Vinny when they also had Self swap up real quick to Lena? 17 final hits. The consistency is there, even if Delena had lost out with the rest of 100 Thieves in that first map, Dogman. But then you have to consider that the next map will be up to FlyQuest. Where will we be going? What server will we be playing on? We're gonna have to find out on the other side of this break.
chill. I'm trying to help.
Lights out. Suffer in the darkness. Let's pop back up under their noses. Us against the world.
My time to shine.
guys. Well, if you missed day one and day two, we are here to fill you in. Starting with day one, Chip. I mean, we saw kind of the debut for a lot of these teams. Some of them knocking off the rust, others coming right into the new form of what roster mania is. Day one has come and gone. Day two, though, you were the caster of it, man. What did you see? What were some words to describe it?
Sure, I'll keep it quick. I think teams started waking up. We saw them actually perform and step into their shoes a little bit and shake off some of those nerves. A lot of the series going to game three, and they were much more intense than I thought from day one.
Well, listen, man, let's go ahead and kick it off with Nightmare versus Yeah, We Lost. And this was a close one. I mean, the word to describe the first match was probably the closest match right there with it that we've seen in Ignite yet, or at least this year too. Both these teams kind of flex that they are the dive ones. But what did you see breaking it down? Because there's a lot to highlight.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, like you said, very close, 99 to 99 on Dom on map 3, off the rip. And even then, there was ultimates coming in at the end that almost looked like it was going to sway it back in the favor of Yeah, We Lost. Nightmare did look super solid. A lot of these similar comps. Jeff was seeing a ton of play. We even saw Spider-Man, Venom, all the stuff you would expect. Psylocke was in there too. Daredevil went available. I mean, these teams are just very aggro, but they are incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it looked like Vision he did not miss a step from last year. Vision was just popping off. And I felt like Nightmare had a very good control of that going forward. And then, Yeah, We Lost. They just came back into form. And I have to give them credit because they didn't struggle in the MRC. And sometimes when that's your practice and then you go into something like this, like you're kind of not used to being down. Also, Jitward, we got to see the Deadpool, which is always fun. And, you know, we'll see how long that kind of lasts as things have been patched and, you know, approached a little bit. But do you think they have a good step moving forward? A lot of people had them high in their rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are confident right now, too. We had the interview with Cartlover, and like I said in the interview, you know, he talked in the prior, we did kind of like a pre-interview test. He said, I'll see you in a little bit. And he did. He came right back in for the interview. So that was really cool to see. So they are feeling good, which is a good sign.
Yeah, and as for Nightmare, I think they're definitely still like getting their roster together, and they look strong out there. I think they have a great chance today. Excited to see them in the day 3 action. But our other match we're going to talk about in this highlight is Fly versus Sentinels. And we talked about this is the redemption of what happened on day 1 match. And to me, buddy, you know, like you go and see a band and they're playing some new songs and you're like, come on, play the classics. Like, it's like, that's how it felt with Sentinels. They were doing some new stuff day 1 and you're like, get the right amazing on the Iron Man. Let's see Cap on Crimzo. It felt like we returned to old form.
Yeah, Crimzo stepped up, Rai stepped up, but also Mirror came in instead of Kurova, which is a huge change, right? In running that backline, more of a consistent backbone backline, right? Running that invis and looking really solid doing it. But yeah, the entire team just kind of woke up. We talked to Rai in the interview, and he essentially said, you know, we just needed to change our ban phase. Our ban phase was not good day 1, and we really paid the price for it. We figured out what we wanted to do, and now we're going to be clean. And you know what? They looked really clean today or yesterday, for sure.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, Kurova, what a talented player. But one thing with Mirror is it kind of makes the bans more confusing for the opponent. And if they're able to interchange these two studs, that is going to be absolutely massive for them. Because then you have, all right, do you ban the Atom? Do you go this approach? And it doesn't make it as clear cut, your battle plan against Sentinels. FlyQuest, though, let's talk about him. For me, it's kind of the same as day 1. Talent all over. They're all doing something well, but it just hasn't come together as one, in my opinion.
Yeah, truth be told, I want them to perform. I like a lot of those players. I think they're all really talented, like you're saying. You know, it's a newer team. They do have some players from over the pond, which is going to make things a little dicey in terms of communication and, you know, even ping, for example. But yeah, I just want them to find their footing. They just aren't quite there yet.
All right, so that's the 2 matches from the early slate. We have 3 other ones that you might have missed from day 2, but that's all for us for now. We'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, so you heard about the couple of matches in day 2 to start us off, but if you missed day 2, we have 3 more matches that were absolute heat, and we start off with TSM and Loon X. Now, TSM struggled a little bit in day 1 to find their footing. Loon X did look strong, but for me, it really all came back together, and you saw that teamwork come to play with TSM that fought back, lost 1 game, and then won 2 in a row. Shib, what'd you see?
Yeah, Lunex looked consistently strong, and I think TSM struggled on Dom, but then they just found their footing with this new triple composition. They started running this more brawly beef front line, triple on the front, and then allowing their, you know, essentially 1 duelist on the Star-Lord, who looked really good, obviously. But yeah, it was unstoppable. As soon as that switch came in, it was like the cart stopped moving, everything was stationary, and they locked in for the next 2 maps.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of triple Vanguard, and I think it was cool that back in the dev vision, they showed actually how well triple Vanguard works at the highest level, but you have to have an anchor duelist. A little bit in SSG. We saw that whenever you had Nectar as the Star Lord. And in this case, and today in day 2, Bedtime Story had to do a lot of the heavy lifting there. And that's because Gale, who's an amazing player, was on the Gulk, all right, was playing the Hulk and is definitely going to give that team a little bit of a different look. And we'll see if that's just part of their flexibility or, one of the team packages that they want to run moving forward. Lunex, though, they've definitely proven themselves as a team that's going to be tough to beat.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, shout out again. Regis looked really good in the back line, especially on map 3 there. Looked like he did not miss a single bullet on that Punisher, and that's always hype, right? So the team stayed consistent, but again, TSM, the compositional change that they made, I don't think that Lunex could find a solution, so they're definitely going to have to look into that in the future.
Year 2, if there's anything we've learned, is that the MRC teams are not going to be easy beats. Lunex proved that, and we're going to continue to head into that with Swamp Gaming versus Cafe Rose, who obviously had the upset of the tournament, at least expectation-wise, to get FlyQuest a quick 2-0 in day 1, now playing what was now, I would deem some people's America's favorite, right? Swamp Gaming, what they've shown. And the number one thing I've seen from this team is that they have so many ways to beat you, right? It's not just from one role or player. I'm personally, if I had them circled on my calendar or schedule, this is a team you have to do a lot of prep for.
Yeah, it was awesome hearing Coach Fox essentially break down how they discuss their ban strategies per team, and then also how they're not afraid to switch in things like Days out and bring in a Madian who played incredible there as a duelist swap, and being able to do that with different priorities of heroes that they play is really powerful. It's tough for teams to scrim against, which is what he was mentioning.
Yo, I'm going to be honest, actually. If you look at that also with Sentinels, is this the year we see more subs come to play, right? And it doesn't mean like a player's bad. It's like, okay, this is just a different flexible package we can play. The more heroes you bring into the game, it's going to be kind of more common that you have these specialists in different, team comps that you want to run. And I think that's going to be honestly super interesting on both a viewer and caster, position for that. But yeah, man, the backline for Swamp Gaming, they look tough to beat, but it was not an easy win for them at all. I mean, you may have looked at that game and thought it was going to be a quick one, but Swamp Gaming, they even put on social media like, okay, hey, tip of the cap respect over there to Cafe Rose.
Yeah, Cafe Rose has been stepping up. I think, like you're saying, with the MRC teams, we kind of assumed that they were going to struggle a bit up at this elo, but they have nothing to lose, and they're proving it. They look dominant out there, and they're not afraid to step up in these moments, taking things like domination to map 3 off the rip and look super confident. And there was a point where I was like, okay, this team might be able to pull this home, but just, unable to do so. Swamp Gaming locked in and just looked really strong.
Absolutely. And then it takes us to our last match of the day. If you missed it, it was TLC Liquid Gaming versus SSG, right? And both these teams look pretty strong, I would say, coming out of day 1. Now you got a battle of some big-time titans, especially in the esport. For me, Liquid, they looked like they were just kind of back to form. I think like day 1, game 1 is like, okay, a little bit of rust maybe, but man, this is proven to be the team to beat. They look tough.
Yeah, they tweeted something out like, hey, we're going to shake the cobwebs off and our games are going to be easier for us. And yeah, they really did just that. I mean, SSG is no joke. Obviously, Nectar is disgusting, but they tried to match comp and domination. And TLC, Team Liquid Citadel, looked just so good instead. I mean, I don't know that you can try to copy comp into a team like that. I think you got to try to find a way around it. So they really struggled there. And then they kept running those unique compositions, bunker busters as they went to Midtown. Team Liquid, man, they are the team to beat right now.
Yeah, without question. Day 3 is going to be full of matches as well. There's going to be a heater on y'all's plate to watch. A lot of bangers out there. Get ready for some action. We're going to jump right in. Alrighty, day 3 is underway, and we have our predictions ready for you. I mean, obviously, this is really tough to get predictions in. We've only seen these teams on a very small sample size, but today we have some matches that will definitely show a lot more of the path to the finish line in the preseason. Now, we start with Swamp Gaming versus NRG. Talk about starting with an absolute heated banger. Shib, I'm going to give you the floor first. Who do you got? Because these are the favorites amongst, Group A.
I'm going to go with NRG here. I think NRG looked really solid in the 100T, and I think they can keep that ball rolling. I think they have the confidence right now. Swamp Gaming is obviously really talented, but NRG keeping it moving, I think, buddy. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's hard to go against Velocity and all what they've got. And to keep it interesting, though, I'll go on the other side. I think Swamp Gaming has proved, 2 days in a row that they are just looking all the part. And so I think they continue that train and, look to be America's favorite. But we'll see, because this one is going to come down to micro decisions. And I think when you look at just the coaching behind it and kind of the battle plan, NRG excels in that a ton. So this is going to be a good one, but I'll have Swamp Gaming there first. Second matchup, we have Yeah We Lost versus Lunex Gaming. This is a bit of a repeat of the MRC. I think we both got the same.
Yeah, I think we have to stay the same here. Just history repeats itself is the way you've got to think of it, especially when you're doing predictions like this. It's got to be, yeah, we lost.
I mean, if you look at it, hey, it was the fastest ever we saw a best of 7, and we lost did. So maybe Lunex, it kind of sparked a fire under them, and maybe they look better. But yeah, that's gonna be a tough one to come back from. Just the way that they play dive is so hard to play against when you're trying to do the anti-dive defense approach, right? Sentinels versus Cafe Rose. Obviously, if you looked at this thing before the preseason, it would be one-sided, but I think it's a more difficult match than you might think. And I think Cafe Rose, they're going to be ready for the part. Who do you got here? Because I think I'm still going to give the edge to Sentinels.
Yeah, I think I do the same. Sentinels have looked exponential in their growth, where Cafe Rose has looked consistently strong, but I think what we saw yesterday from Sentinels is a little better than what I've seen from Cafe Rose.
Yeah, I'm going to make it interesting. I'm going to go Cafe Rose wins the first one, Sentinels win the next 2. So it's going to be 2-1. Sentinels end up winning it, kind of what we saw from TSM yesterday. Nightmare versus SSG. This might be the other toughest game to call today. Both teams look all the part. SSG has obviously played both days. Nightmare only one showing against we lost, which is a great team. I'll give you the floor first. Who you got?
Yeah, for this one, I'm curious what your take is too. I could go either way. Yeah. I'm going to stay with Nightmare because I loved what I saw from them on the first 2 maps against we lost. They struggled definitely on map 3, but I think they were just kind of on their heels at that point and fell apart. But I think they can lock back in. Yeah,
for me, it's like I can't see either of these teams dropping 2 L's in a row, but one of them have to, right? And that's going to be the tough part. For me, I feel like SSG at the hands of Nectar should be able to get this done. I'm going to give them the slight edge. Again, I think this is go to 3. I think if you want a long day today, that's what you're going to get because this is going to go the distance. But Nightmare definitely has, I think, a bit more of a scary comp, if you were to say, compared to more traditional, better neutral maybe from SSG. So that's what we might see there to get close to in the day. And then we have Fly versus 100 Thieves, which, year 1, this is like a heater matchup. Year 2, I mean, come on, I know you have Fly, right?
No, I got to go 100 Thieves on this one, bro. I have to. I think 100 Thieves looks, they looked really good. Obviously, day 1 didn't play yesterday, so we didn't have eyes on if anything were to crumble for them. Fly, personally, for me, I love the players on the team. I think they're all talented. We keep reiterating it, but I just want to see them perform once to get their confidence up, and I think everyone else's confidence in them.
For sure. If 100 Thieves didn't lose day 1, I might have said, okay, there might be like this upset and you had the fire to spark FlyQuest, but 100 Thieves also have that fire. Like they can't go 0-2. There's just no way I can see that happening with that org, with Remix and all the players behind it. But FlyQuest going 0-3, there's also a lot of stake for them there. So even though you have 2 teams that are winless, I think there's so much mental to be played here. But overall, I think 100 Thieves ends up taking it. So what I can't wait for is for me and you to probably be wrong about most of these, but that's how it goes, yeah?
That's always how it is, and that's why sometimes you and I got to split down the other side. One of us has got to be right, buddy.
Exactly.
Have to hedge our bets.
We'll drop the predictions down below for the matches when they start. We want to know what you guys have to say, and we'll see you guys on the next one. What's up, guys? Welcome. We're going to talk about right now the current standings of all the teams in the America region. Now, there's plenty of days to have the preseason shake up, but as it stands, Group A, Group B, where do the teams land? And then, Shib, I want to talk about who you think might maybe get more wins under their belts and some of these shift a bit, especially those with the predictions out there. You want to know exactly how they're going to do. Well, Group A, the group of death. Let's start there. Swamp Gaming is going to be in first place as of now. NRG followed by that. Sentinels, then Cafe Rose, followed by 100 Thieves and FlyQuest. Now, to be fair, some of these teams have not played 2 matches, some have, and so that's going to affect someone like 100 Thieves who, they took a loss, and that's going to take them all the way down, even though FlyQuest played twice and they're at the bottom. But that's how it's working right now, yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, in NRG up in second place, they have another opportunity to keep moving forward if they win their next match. They've only played 1 day as well.
If you look at Group A, who do you think is going to move from here? Obviously, I think 100 Thieves should definitely be able to move on up. We'll see how far they can move up with NRG beating them, right? That's going to be one team that they're going to have to look to either hope to drop a game or, move past. If NRG plays perfect, then they will be in control of their own destiny, as we like to say, as well as Swamp Gaming.
Yeah, I think we definitely see Thieves moving up. Sentinels has potential too. They started locking in yesterday, and that was exciting. But again, I mean, it's like with these teams, it's like any given day. I will say that when we looked at 100 Thieves and NRG, they were so closely matched, and you obviously were there for that. That was one of those games that we've, in terms of early season, like it was just mind-blowing to watch, a ton of fun. So they're up there even. So no matter what, I think they're going to get closer on the leaderboard. But yeah, I mean, it's so tricky because I want to say Cafe Rose has a chance to move forward because they look good. But Right now, there's so much talent in A. I think it's any given day. Right now, it's got to be roughly similar, I'd say.
For sure. I think a lot of fans out there have two things highlighted. It's Swamp Gaming versus NRG, which is today, day 3. So that's going to answer a lot of questions. And then
Truth.
Swamp Gaming versus 100 Thieves. I think those are some of the matchups to see some of these kind of even out. And then I would say Sentinels to punch up above those top 3 as well and kind of see how they measure up to them. Obviously, we saw a little bit of that on day 1, but we want to see the classic 100 Thieves Sentinels. Like sometimes teams play other teams just better on how it works. It's not always 1 for 1. So that's going to be Group A and how that's going to shake up. And again, Cafe Rose was a lot of people's last team, and they're looking like they're definitely not going to be towards that last spot, at least of right now. But over to Group B, this is where I think we see a lot more shakeup, most likely as these teams either get rust off them or they just continue to play others and things kind of work out their way. Right now, Team Liquid is leading the pack at the top, followed by Yeah, We Lost, which, prediction-wise, that's where I had the 1 and the 2. But we did have SSG to follow that, followed by TSM, Nightmare, and then we had Loon X Gaming. Anything jump out to you?
Major things to call out. Nightmare was right up there with Yeah, We Lost. Obviously going to map 3. Struggled a bit on the 3rd map. So I think they'll likely move up. They only have 1 match under their belt right now. So not the best distribution. Obviously, once they play again today, we might see where that shakes up. But that's a similar story for Yeah, We Lost, who won their very first matchup, obviously, against Nightmare. So they have the potential to stay right in that spot or in contention with Team Liquid Citadel. But I will say, Team Liquid Citadel, I don't see them moving at all. I don't know about your take on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that they right now have a pretty anchored start to it. I mean, if you look at them already taking down someone like SSG, that's a great win. If they beat Yeah, We Lost, I think they kind of just cement themselves at the top. Today, it's going to be Nightmare versus SSG, and that is going to shake up, I think, a lot in the middle there because Yeah, We Lost has only played 1 as well. They play Lunex, which I would say probably they look favored to win because of how they played them against the MRC. Like we've seen that story play out a little bit. However, anything can happen when you have a couple weeks to prepare. So that's my expectation there. But this one's much more wide open in my opinion. But here's the thing. This is split up into a couple weeks, right? So you're going to have these teams have much more time, the tape, the film, and everything in between to kind of lock in.
Yeah, and we've seen just in day 2 alone, teams have already fixed their banding strategies and looked a lot better. Like we were just talking about with Sentinels, that same thing is applied to all of these teams. And not only that, their team compositions and their studying of their opposition. Some teams just play better into others. So very much looking forward to seeing what happens today because I think it's going to set the tone for what we're going to see in the future.
Absolutely. Well, we'll find out more in day 3. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back after this break to some more action.
I'm trying to help.
Lights out. Suffer in the darkness. Let's pop back up under their noses. Us against the world.
My time to shine.
guys. Well, if you missed day one and day two, we are here to fill you in. Starting with day one, Chip. I mean, we saw kind of the debut for a lot of these teams. Some of them knocking off the rust, others coming right into the new form of what roster mania is. Day one has come and gone. Day two, though, you were the caster of it, man. What did you see? What were some words to describe it?
Sure, I'll keep it quick. I think teams started waking up. We saw them actually perform and step into their shoes a little bit and shake off some of those nerves. A lot of the series going to game 3, and they were much more intense than I thought from day one.
Well, listen, man, let's go and kick it off with Nightmare versus Yeah, We Lost. And this was a close one. I mean, the word to describe the first match was probably the closest match right there with it that we've seen in Ignite yet, or at least this year too. Both these teams kind of flex that they are the dive ones. But what did you see breaking it down? Because there's a lot to highlight.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, like you said, very close, 99 to 99 on Dom on map 3, off the rip. And even then, there was ultimates coming in at the end that almost looked like it was going to sway it back in the favor of Yeah, We Lost. Nightmare did look super solid. A lot of these similar comps. Jeff was seeing a ton of play. We even saw Spider-Man, Venom, all the stuff you would expect. Psylocke was in there too. Daredevil went available. I mean, these teams are just very aggro, but they are incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it looked like Vision he did not miss a step from last year. Vision was just popping off. And I felt like Nightmare had a very good control of that going forward. And then, Yeah, We Lost. They just came back into form. And I have to give them credit because they didn't struggle in the MRC. And sometimes when that's your practice and then you go into something like this, like you're kind of not used to being down. Also, Jitward, we got to see the Deadpool, which is always fun. And, we'll see how long that kind of lasts as things have been patched and, approached a little bit. But do you think they have a good step moving forward? A lot of people had them high in their rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are confident right now, too. We had the interview with Cartlover, and like I said in the interview, he talked in the prior, we did kind of like a pre-interview test. He said, I'll see you in a little bit. And he did. He came right back in for the interview. So that was really cool to see. So they are feeling good, which is a good sign.
Yeah, and as for Nightmare, I think they're definitely still getting their roster together, and they look strong out there. I think they have a great chance today. Excited to see them in the day 3 action. But our other match we're going to talk about in this highlight is Fly versus Sentinels. And we talked about this is the redemption of what happened on day 1 match. And to me, buddy, you go and see a band and they're playing some new songs and you're like, come on, play the classics. It's like that's how it felt with Sentinels. They were doing some new stuff day 1 and you're like, get the right amazing on the Iron Man. Let's see Cap on Crimzo. It felt like we returned to old form.
Yeah, Crimzo stepped up, Rise stepped up, but also Mirror came in instead of Kurova, which is a huge change, right? In running that backline, more of a consistent backbone backline, right? Running that invis and looking really solid doing it. But yeah, the entire team just kind of woke up. We talked to Ryan in the interview, and he essentially said, we just needed to change our ban phase. Our ban phase was not good day 1, and we really paid the price for it. We figured out what we wanted to do, and now we're going to be clean. And you know what? They looked really clean today or yesterday, for sure.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, Kurova, what a talented player. But one thing with Mirror is it kind of makes the bans more confusing for the opponent. And if they're able to interchange these two studs, that is going to be absolutely massive for them. Because then you have, all right, do you ban the Atom? Do you go this approach? And it doesn't make it as clear cut your battle plan against Sentinels. FlyQuest, though, let's talk about him. For me, it's kind of the same as day 1. Talent all over. They're all doing something well, but it just hasn't come together as one, in my opinion.
Yeah, truth be told, I want them to perform. I like a lot of those players. I think they're all really talented, like you're saying. It's a newer team. They do have some players from over the pond, which is going to make things a little dicey in terms of communication and, even ping, for example. But yeah, I just want them to find their footing. They just aren't quite there yet.
All right, so that's the 2 matches from the early slate. We have 3 other ones that you might have missed from day 2, but that's all for us for now. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Alrighty, so you heard about the couple of matches in day 2 to start us off, but if you missed day 2, we have 3 more matches that were absolute heat, and we start off with TSM and Loon X. Now, TSM struggled a little bit in day 1 to find their footing. Loon X did look strong, but for me, it really all came back together, and you saw that teamwork come to play with TSM that fought back, lost 1 game, and then won 2 in a row. Shib, what'd you see?
Yeah, Lunex looked consistently strong, and I think TSM struggled on Dom, but then they just found their footing with this new triple composition. They started running this more brawly beef front line, triple on the front, and then allowing their, essentially one duelist on the Star-Lord, who looked really good, obviously. But yeah, it was unstoppable. As soon as that switch came in, it was like the cart stopped moving, everything was stationary, and they locked in for the next 2 maps.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of triple Vanguard, and I think it was cool that back in the dev vision, they showed actually how well triple Vanguard works at the highest level, but you have to have an anchor duelist. A little bit in SSG. We saw that whenever you had Nectar as the Star Lord. And in this case, and today in day 2, Bedtime Story had to do a lot of the heavy lifting there. And that's because Gale, who's an amazing player, was on the Gulk, all right, was playing the Hulk and is definitely going to give that team a little bit of a different look. And we'll see if that's just part of their flexibility or, one of the team packages that they want to run moving forward. Lunex, though, they've definitely proven themselves as a team that's going to be tough to beat.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, shout out again. Regis looked really good in the back line, especially on map 3 there. Looked like he did not miss a single bullet on that Punisher, and that's always hype, right? So the team stayed consistent, but again, TSM, the compositional change that they made, I don't think that Lunex could find a solution, so they're definitely going to have to look into that in the future.
Year 2, if there's anything we've learned, is that the MRC teams are not going to be easy beats. Lunex proved that, and we're going to continue to head into that with Swamp Gaming versus Cafe Rose, who obviously had the upset of the tournament, at least expectation-wise, to get FlyQuest a quick 2-0 in day 1, now playing what was now, I would deem some people's America's favorite, right? Swamp Gaming, what they've shown. And the number one thing I've seen from this team is that they have so many ways to beat you, right? It's not just from one role or player. I'm personally, if I had them circled on my calendar or schedule, this is a team you have to do a lot of prep for.
Yeah, it was awesome hearing Coach Fox essentially break down how they discuss their ban strategies per team, and then also how they're not afraid to switch in things like Days out and bring in a Madian who played incredible there as a duelist swap, and being able to do that with different priorities of heroes that they play is really powerful. It's tough for teams to scrim against, which is what he was mentioning.
Yo, I'm going to be honest, actually. If you look at that also with Sentinels, is this the year we see more subs come to play, right? And it doesn't mean like a player's bad. It's like, okay, this is just a different flexible package we can play. The more heroes you bring into the game, it's going to be kind of more common that you have these specialists in different, team comps that you want to run. And I think that's going to be honestly super interesting on both a viewer and caster, position for that. But yeah, man, the backline for Swamp Gaming, they look tough to beat, but it was not an easy win for them at all. I mean, you may have looked at that game and thought it was going to be a quick one, but Swamp Gaming, they even put on social media like, okay, hey, tip of the cap respect over there to Cafe Rose.
Yeah, Cafe Rose has been stepping up. I think, like you're saying, with the MRC teams, we kind of assumed that they were going to struggle a bit up at this elo, but they have nothing to lose, and they're proving it. They look dominant out there, and they're not afraid to step up in these moments, taking things like domination to map 3 off the rip and look super confident. And there was a point where I was like, okay, this team might be able to pull this home, but just, unable to do so. Swamp Gaming locked in and just looked really strong.
Absolutely. And then it takes us to our last match of the day. If you missed it, it was TLC Liquid Gaming versus SSG, right? And both these teams look pretty strong, I would say, coming out of day 1. Now you got a battle of some big-time titans, especially in the esport. For me, Liquid, they looked like they were just kind of back to form. I think like day 1, game 1, is like, oh, okay, a little bit of rust maybe, but man, this is proven to be the team to beat. They look tough.
Yeah, they tweeted something out like, hey, we're going to shake the cobwebs off and our games are going to be easier for us. And yeah, they really did just that. I mean, SSG is no joke. Obviously, Nectar is disgusting, but they tried to match comp in domination. And TLC, Team Liquid Citadel, looked just so good instead. I mean, I don't know that you can try to copy comp into a team like that. I think you got to try to find a way around it. So they really struggled there. And then they kept running those unique compositions, bunker busters as they went to Midtown. Team Liquid, man, they are the team to beat right now.
Yeah, without question. Day 3 is going to be full of matches as well. There's going to be a heater on y'all's plate to watch. A lot of bangers out there. Get ready for some action. We're going to jump right in. Already, day 3 is underway, and we have our predictions ready for you. I mean, obviously, this is really tough to get predictions in. We've only seen these teams on a very small sample size, but today we have some matches that will definitely show a lot more of the path to the finish line in the preseason. Now, we start with Swamp Gaming versus NRG. Talk about starting with an absolute heated banger. Shib, I'm going to give you the floor first. Who do you got? Because these are the favorites amongst, Group A.
I'm going to go with NRG here. I think NRG looked really solid in the 100T, and I think they can keep that ball rolling. I think they have the confidence right now. Swamp Gaming is obviously really talented, but NRG keeping it moving, I think, buddy. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's hard to go against Velocity and all what they've got. And to keep it interesting, though, I'll go on the other side. I think Swamp Gaming has proved, 2 days in a row that they are just looking all the part. And so I think they continue that train and, look to be America's favorite. But we'll see, because this one is going to come down to micro decisions. And I think when you look at just the coaching behind it and kind of the battle plan, NRG excels in that a ton. So this is going to be a good one, but I'll have Swamp Gaming there first. Second matchup, we have Yeah We Lost versus Lunex Gaming. This is a bit of a repeat of the MRC. I think we both got the same.
Yeah, I think we have to stay the same here. Just history repeats itself is the way you've got to think of it, especially when you're doing predictions like this. It's got to be, yeah, we lost.
I mean, if you look at it, hey, it was the fastest ever we saw a best of 7, and we lost did. So maybe Lunex, it kind of sparked a fire under them, and maybe they look better. But yeah, that's gonna be a tough one to come back from. Just the way that they play dive is so hard to play against when you're trying to do the anti-dive defense approach, right? Sentinels versus Cafe Rose. Obviously, if you looked at this thing before the preseason, it would be one-sided, but I think it's a more difficult match than you might think. And I think Cafe Rose, they're going to be ready for the part. Who do you got here? Because I think I'm still going to give the edge to Sentinels.
Yeah, I think I do the same. Sentinels have looked exponential in their growth, where Cafe Rose has looked consistently strong, but I think what we saw yesterday from Sentinels is a little better than what I've seen from Cafe Rose.
Yeah, I'm going to make it interesting. I'm going to go Cafe Rose wins the first one, Sentinels win the next 2. So it's going to be 2-1. Sentinels end up winning it, kind of what we saw from TSM yesterday. Nightmare versus SSG. This might be the other toughest game to call today. Both teams look all the part. SSG has obviously played both days. Nightmare only one showing against we lost, which is a great team. I'll give you the floor first. Who you got?
Yeah, for this one, I'm curious what your take is too. I could go either way. Yeah. I'm going to stay with Nightmare because I loved what I saw from them on the first 2 maps against we lost. They struggled definitely on map 3, but I think they were just kind of on their heels at that point and fell apart. But I think they can lock back in. Yeah,
for me, it's like I can't see either of these teams dropping 2 L's in a row, but one of them have to, right? And that's going to be the tough part. For me, I feel like SSG at the hands of Nectar should be able to get this done. I'm going to give them the slight edge. Again, I think this is go to 3. I think if you want a long day today, that's what you're going to get because this is going to go the distance. But Nightmare definitely has, I think, a bit more of a scary comp, if you were to say, compared to more traditional, better neutral maybe from SSG. So that's what we might see there to get close to end the day. And then we have Fly versus 100 Thieves, which, year 1, this is like a heater matchup. Year 2, I mean, come on, I know you have Fly, right?
No, I got to go 100 Thieves on this one, bro. I have to. I think 100 Thieves looks, they looked really good. Obviously, day 1 didn't play yesterday, so we didn't have eyes on if anything were to crumble for them. Fly, personally, for me, I love the players on the team. I think they're all talented. We keep reiterating it, but I just want to see them perform once to get their confidence up, and I think everyone else's confidence in them.
For sure. If 100 Thieves didn't lose day 1, I might have said, okay, there might be like this upset and you had the fire to spark FlyQuest, but 100 Thieves also have that fire. Like they can't go 0-2. There's just no way I can see that happening with that org, with Remix and all the players behind it. But FlyQuest going 0-3, there's also a lot at stake for them there. So even though you have 2 teams that are winless, I think there's so much mental to be played here. But overall, I think 100 Thieves ends up taking it. So what I can't wait for is for me and you to probably be wrong about most of these, but that's how it goes, yeah?
That's always how it is, and that's why sometimes you and I got to split down the other side. One of us has got to be right, buddy.
Exactly.
Have to hedge our bets.
We'll drop the predictions down below for the matches when they start. We want to know what you guys have to say, and we'll see you guys on the next one. What's up, guys? Welcome. We're going to talk about right now the current standings of all the teams in the America region. Now, there's plenty of days to have the preseason shake up, but as it stands, Group A, Group B, where do the teams land? And then, Shib, I want to talk about who you think might maybe get more wins under their belts and some of these shift a bit, especially those with the predictions out there. You want to know exactly how they're going to do. Well, Group A, the group of death. Let's start there. Swamp Gaming is going to be in first place as of now. NRG followed by that. Sentinels, then Cafe Rose, followed by 100 Thieves and FlyQuest. Now, to be fair, some of these teams have not played 2 matches, some have, and so that's going to affect someone like 100 Thieves who, they took a loss, and that's going to take them all the way down, even though FlyQuest played twice and they're at the bottom. But that's how it's working right now, yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, in NRG up in second place, they have another opportunity to keep moving forward if they win their next match. They've only played 1 day as well.
If you look at Group A, who do you think is going to move from here? Obviously, I think 100 Thieves should definitely be able to move on up. We'll see how far they can move up with NRG beating them, right? That's going to be one team that they're going to have to look to either hope to drop a game or, move past. If NRG plays perfect, then they will be in control of their own destiny, as we like to say, as well as Swamp Gaming.
Yeah, I think we definitely see Thieves moving up. Sentinels has potential too. They started locking in yesterday, and that was exciting. But again, I mean, it's like with these teams, it's like any given day. I will say that when we looked at 100 Thieves and NRG, they were so closely matched, and you obviously were there for that. That was one of those games that we've, in terms of early season, like it was just mind-blowing to watch, a ton of fun. So they're up there even. So no matter what, I think they're going to get closer on the leaderboard. But yeah, I mean, it's...
Oh, hi there. Thanks for sticking around. We are getting ready for our last match, our last map of our last match in this series between 100 Thieves and FlyQuest. Currently, the score is 1-1. It took a while to get there, but I'm sure the map will deliver to make up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this will be a fun series. You know, once we get to it, that's the
We
thing.
love fun.
We love fun. We love fun here, and well, I
Yeah.
imagine game number 3
Those are the
will be
facts.
fun.
Let me tell you guys something, by the way. Okay, it's past midnight my time, and it's not my fault. So it's Vicky after dark, and they must suffer with what they reap. And we get to decide on a server, and we are moving on to game number 3, Zoe.
Oh, we are indeed. Let's recap what happened on map 1 and 2, since some people might have lost the thread as we headed into our quick break. One of those. Let's talk about the first map. Obviously, FlyQuest took that one. It snatched it away. Lots of fantastic individual performance. The Mantis went through. Tuzi was super enabled on that Psylocke and just went rampage.
Yeah, Tuzi was popping off. I mean, like the Mantis, the pocket for him, and everything was kind of working because of the composition they ran. And it was close. Like, I feel like that was still a pretty close map number 1, regardless on domination. And then, game number 2, not the same kind of situation, right? 100 Thieves kind of stomped any sort of situation that FlyQuest had in the positive sense.
Yeah, and that led us to map number 3, 1-1 the score. Which team is going to get the first victory of the opening week? Let's find out.
Thank you, Zoe, because we have to decide it now. This is where it all comes down to the wire. Did we decide on the server? Obviously, because we are moving on to Heart of Heaven, Dogman. And it's been kind of crazy with the back and forth that we've had between both of these teams, but it's important, right? Because this is the opening for both these teams to really start getting ahead of themselves. This is the second series that 100 Thieves actually get to play out on after they lost in their first series versus NRG. FlyQuest, who have finally taken their very first map, want to make this fair, and we see the double Elsa ban from both sides.
Yeah, that's definitely what we want to see out of FlyQuest, I think, in terms of getting rid of the Elsa. But yeah, for 100 Thieves, they always find themselves in situations like this. I remember they're like always a team that's a part of these delays. It attracts 100 Thieves for some reason. I don't know, but the Daredevil Protect comes through on the opposite side, and then they go for that Loki ban to maybe try to get that one-sided matchup that we saw on the last map.
See, as I believe the server that they also decided to be on now is going to be North Virginia. So having that agreement at the very least, while the Daredevil's protected for 100 Thieves, FlyQuest, they were able to protect the Gambit, but now that means that they get to ban out the Gambit from the other side because they ban out the Loki, so they would rather still deal with the Gambit from them, get the Rage and Royal Flush into the win condition. We know what Melio could do just with that. The Mantis, though, do you want to give the damage boost over to the Daredevil is the question. And with that Psylocke being hovered, that's the respect that we were expecting going into this final map here, Dogman. 2C has just gotten so much value with this Psylocke.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think considering what they've liked to run so far, now I wonder, does that on the opposite angle let them go for that Mantis Protect potentially to counter it, right? Because we know that's available. Maybe they still want to run it even without that Psylocke, but like you mentioned, it's a lot of respect towards that one player, towards, giving him that character, considering we are on Heart of Heaven. So I would be interested to see what FlyQuest can run on this map. Maybe you do more divey stuff yet again. We'll kind of see as it moves forward. That first point, I think, is a little bit more open, obviously, but 100 Thieves going for that Angela Protect for TTK. Meanwhile, still had that Vanpool kind of go through thus far. I mean, it's not really been touched on this map specifically throughout the entire ban phase until now for FlyQuest going for that Protect.
Okay. Different little look, right? Because we did see on the side of FlyQuest that they wanted to prio that Vanpool for themselves, kind of swapping things off here with Jolly too when he was forced over to the thing. And here we go. This is not a drill, guys. We are getting into our final game of the day. Dogman, you know how I felt sitting on the edge of my seat seeing these two teams duke it out, but this is where it actually ends.
Yeah, you've been itching for this final map. Finally, we get to see what happens between these two squads. And I know we've been waiting for a while, so I apologize for that. But, like, worst case scenario, you farm a little bit more drops and stuff, right? You can get that beautiful Gambit skin that we have in the drops area of your Twitch stream. But If you're watching us on YouTube or on co-streamers, thank you for tuning in and thanks for watching. Huge shout out to our co-streamers for also, sticking with us and watching throughout today. So you guys are awesome for watching all of this. But, for Team FlyQuest, Vicky, what do they do to try to come back from that map? Because it was a really hard first point, I feel like, for them.
And I think it goes down to like which game modes you feel like you're suffering on, right? We were talking a little bit about it earlier today with some teams that may not be able to find their strike. And now with FlyQuest kind of going into a different look with 2C being on the van pool, we have to see if they get that sort of impact with the side lock. Of course, they will be able to have access to that Gambit, and that could benefit Melio, who is on the Daredevil, Jolly on the Angela too. FlyQuest start things off on the attack, and 100 Thieves, because we also have to mention too, Dogman. It's been a little bit, just so that way you guys who are just tuning in can know, this is going to be FlyQuest's map that they decide on, as well as the side here.
They're slowly walking it up. You see, traditionally, this height needs to be controlled by this defensive squad, and herself, he's kind of looking for, that height to try to control it. In the meanwhile, kind of full surround, both Angelas flying over is a bit aesthetically pleasing. But, in the moment, this entire point needs to sort of get surrounded upon by the offense for them to really have a shot at diving this back line of Melio and all the other triple strategists running around, or rather, Millennia and Winnie on the height.
We're going to talk about the Vanpool skin represents Melio now going to be able to wrap around, but Delena is the one on the Psylocke to showcase what the Delena Psylocke could do. Sadly, we won't get the mirror match because the Psylocke was banned on the FlyQuest, and this forces Ken to back away. Nice little reset here if he can, but he cannot. And I was thinking that there was going to be maybe some backup from Jolly, but this is the Delena show. If it's not on the Elsa, it's looking like it's going to be on the Psylocke.
Yeah, Delena's always had that Psylocke in his back pocket. Comes out, nice little two-piece in that fight, and then also staves off the aggression from FlyQuest. Now we're already down a minute off the clock, right? FlyQuest have at least built some ultimates to put Vests, on that rogue, so they can go aggressive, potentially with a full triple comp dive, but Tuzi gets stunned in the middle of his ult, I believe, but same thing with TTK. Meanwhile, with those Deadpool ults out, not a lot of actual action happens on the inside, maybe some cooldowns forced out, but Tuzi goes down on the other side, so Vinny gets the better of him, caught out in that engagement.
Calling them in here before closing in the gap. Vinny is going to be able to control this right side, splitting the attention of FlyQuest. You can see Melio going up on top of the roof. They're trying to pinpoint where Melio is, thanks to TTK being on that Angela. And I'm going to say it right now, Dogman, with the Rage Royal Flush, they need to get things going, but there's really not a follow potential here because currently Melio cannot let the devil out. Currently it's stuck in jail. The ultimate's not online. Celos though fights Aletta. Millennia, the follow-up right here as 100 Thieves are dropping. Winnie will not be able to use the itch step for now, but with the dance of the Butterfly, can Delena bring this back? That's 2 outs, and with Delena being the last sole survivor here for 100 Thieves, there's only so much you could do. Vinny jumps right back around to keep the stall going, but they wanted to waste more time away from FlyQuest.
A nice little push, nice little engage on the outside. They try to come back with a Jeff ult from Winnie to maybe stall out time for this portal to come through, but it's not going to be there in time. Point cap by FlyQuest. It took a bit, but, with 100 Thieves and how they played it, it kind of makes sense. I believe FlyQuest slowly sort of surrounded 100 Thieves, got some important ults out, and were able to kind of work it into, like you mentioned, with Melio going off in the back line and then having some pretty good Gambit ultimate timings. Now we go into the second phase of the map, though, as FlyQuest, still have some solid ults to work with. They'll be against this Rocket Raccoon ult and 100 Thieves. How do they want to play this? Do they want to dive onto Ken early, or Zelos to try to force out that invisible boundary in this fight?
Especially like with Melio here, letting the devil out, compared that to Self. They can try to follow that up between Millennia and Self to get that damage output. Delena too, and trying to build up that dance of the butterfly, trying to move up. There goes Asia though, the invisible boundary from Zelos as a Heartbreaker comes in and tries to take that away, but maybe popped a little too late, and it's fine because Melio unleashes the devil and Jolly follows up, and that is FlyQuest taking over 100 Thieves.
Yeah, they're starting to string together a few fights, and well placed with that invisible boundary. Now Millennia goes back over to the Invisible Woman, tries to get off that Rocket Raccoon that we used on that first point, and maybe they're finding that BRB a little bit easier to take care of. They're also switching full to that front back off that we saw in the previous map. Tuzi caught back towards his own, or back towards their spawn, due to them just switching to this full thing composition. They're again playing this, trying to counter the dive style, and it's working. Melio goes down too.
Talk about the push and pull right now. FlyQuest looking like they're in some trouble. They were able to bring it right back. To talk about the front to back composition, and they were able to also split a lot of that attention, both from the left side of the bridge to the right. And now Ken does have that Raging Royal Flush, but really no follow-up to go with it. Only really that sustainability. They try to go 3-2-1. On one of the strats here of 100 Thieves, Winnie taking a different off angle on the Loki.
Yeah, this is what I'm a little worried about now for FlyQuest. You know, how can they deal with this back line? Is it too tunneled? You know, they already go in early. Nice job with the DP ult onto the back line, so they're going to be trying to pocket each other. Meanwhile, Vinny separates them from everybody else, and Self is there to follow through. Invis eventually goes down with Zelos. Ken there with follow-up too. Sent back to spawn. Meanwhile, a Deadpool ult committed by Vinny on the opposite side of the map. Their strategists are kind of stuck in spawn, so I wonder if they're actually going to find anything in this case. It's Millennia to go down. Nice job from Tuesday.
And with the Dance of the Butterflies now coming out, the dash out too, Delena just dealing a good amount of that pressure, but not being able to find their mark. Jolly does go down just slightly before, and with the God of Mischief, a winning hand comes out, this time from Winnie. Gambit ban, no problem. You get the copy instead onto Ken, and TTK goes crazy. The TTK clobbering time is among us.
Yeah, TTK has been great kind of flexing over to, you know, the heroes that are needed for the squad. I think that he's done, you know, a great job just kind of stuffing out FlyQuest dive, and now they're switching full to it, right? No more Angela, we're onto that Captain America. Still trying to go for that surround on the triple Vanguard comp, but, you know, they're committing so much to getting one in these fights. Like to see if they can continue that momentum moving forward against Self, who has ultimate.
Jolly 2 trying to pave the path for the rest of FlyQuest. Zelos has that invisible boundary that you were just mentioning, and with TTK going down, there is no clobbering time. Self does have let the devil out before Vinny comes in and tries to harass this backline with Van Hammer. Delena with the 1-2 and the Scooby-Doo onto Melio to get that first pickoff. They try to get the grab. Rogue now trying to provide some of that help on the peel line from the strats, and with Gambit never folding, they're going to be able to try to match up from each side here. Vinny too going to be able to get everybody's attention. Same thing here for Tusi, and Delena is unfazed after finding Ken, and that was out of the Raging Roll Flush too that they were trying to use.
Yeah, you talked about how Delena's played with this map so far. However, he's missing part of the team now. Can he avoid Jolly? The answer is no. Captain America tracks him down, and we don't really have any ults either for the side of the defense. You know, Self gets to go forward with his ultimate, but doesn't have a lot of help, I think, just from Winnie. I mean, can he live long enough? Nice job avoiding all of the damage, but the answer, no. Portal comes back out of spawn. They're going to touch last second. Delena maybe thought he could get through that portal.
No!
With that dash, he takes the butterflies off the side?
No! No way. There's no way. All right. Well, the fact that we were on Delena, I'm sorry. You got caught in 4K. Dang, right through the portal, up to the side. That's unfortunate, but it's fortunate at least for FlyQuest, because look what they have coming up online. They can let the devil out. They have the freedom charge to stall, and they got that second checkpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was going to be a hard fight to win no matter what, just because it was like Winnie holding down the fort until Millennia got back, but yeah, caught in 4K for sure. Now we go to third phase. A minute left to go. FlyQuest actually getting this thing kind of pretty far forward, right? And I think Dive actually does pretty solid on this next point, on the third point, with the flank angles if they're controlled by Jolly, right? Shutting down Delena. Aggressive ultimate from Millennia to go deeper to the backline, force those greens out. But will he get any KOs through TTK, who is just stopping the dive by himself?
What are you waiting at, though? The Van Hammer comes online, tries to look at the back line, assembling the troops, though, from FlyQuest to meet Jolly with the freedom charge. Invisible boundary called in from Winnie in the form of the God of Mischief, and with Millennia in the safety over to the side, is going to be able to find Vez. Vinny closes the gap, too, with the bubble, and it's going to be 100 Thieves taking over this point. FlyQuest playing very spread out, but they do have the Raging Royal Flush to recontend in the next 17 seconds.
I was wondering if they would have any more stagger KOs, but you're right. It's as you mentioned, Vicky, like double strat ults. They just used the Loki in that fight. But TDK's been big with some pretty large clobbering times, right? Even in the middle of strat ults. They go aggressive with the Deadpool. Oh no! Zelos dies with ult during the Gambit ult. That's brutal.
That was such a big first pickoff, though, here. 100 Thieves recognizing that. Millennia with the invisible boundary. With two people out, though. Clobbering time comes in. Only finds Vez, but it's just enough. With the 1v1 over to the side again, trying to fight for their life originally. He comes back around. The help! He gets three together. Delena and TTK were the only ones originally on the point, as Delena now comes out from spawn room gates, and with overtime ticking down, they cannot get off.
Well,
Huge stacker.
I guess they didn't need it in that fight, or Zelos, just because Ken, you know, already got the ult out. At least the rest of the squad can get value, and then Ken just decides to do everything else by himself, like you mentioned. But now, in this upcoming fight, invisible boundary to counter potential ultimates from 100 Thieves. They can get that out. maybe get some KOs. Best could also slow down the ultimate charge from Delena if he goes for the right time, but Ken's already dead.
Oh, with Ken going down, at least Zelos was ready with the invisible boundary. That's just one victim on the other side. And with FlyQuest pushing into the 100 Thieves spawn, it is all for naught. With Delena looking at the dance of the Cutterfly, only having that and nobody else from 100 Thieves. Let the devil back in because FlyQuest have actually pushed this payload to the finish line when Dogman, they had little to no time on that second checkpoint when they recontested with that portal play.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, what a push by them towards the very end. And, you know, realistically, it's because, like, well, Delena did his part of the job, I believe, because he's going for his ult early. Also found the KO. But, I mean, maybe after the invisible boundary, they wanted to go with Self-Soul or even combo those two. But he couldn't because Vest had his ultimate on Rogue and just removed Self. Like Self was at his ult, but his ult charge dissipated in front of his very own eyes and just didn't have any follow-up after the invisible boundary. Plus, the aggressive play afterwards was just clean. So, you know, there's a lot of things culminating right now, Vicky, I think at a macro level. You know, time of day, maybe these players are getting tired and stuff, but that was still a very clean end towards the very end of the map for FlyQuest.
Promise you, though, that miss on the Cutterfly before that second point had nothing to do with the ping out there. It's okay. You got to reset. 100 Thieves now on the attack have to get this payload to the finish line. This is an insane final series, Dogman. We weren't expecting this, but I will say for those of you guys watching at home, this is a great way to finish off our first week within the Ignite series in the Americas region. Welcome, because 100 Thieves of Titans within their group respectively are here clawing for their life, and FlyQuest have Jolly on the Hulk.
There should be a good changeup, I think, to see Jolly play that Hulk. And again, and for FlyQuest, you know, honestly a good spot to be in after what happened earlier. You know, go to this map where you maybe get Delena off like the Phoenix and some of those sort of, you know, hit scan heroes that he's incredibly strong at. Same thing with the Psylocke, but, you know, at points, FlyQuest have done a great job, at least in the mirror. We'll see if they can keep it up. I think that Jolly's already out of Hulk form. Never mind. In Bruce Banner form, just got taken out by the rest of the squad of 100 Thieves to track down the Hulk player.
I was gonna say, like, Delena just pinpointing exactly where he is from the other side of the waterfall. It looked like he was all the way far in left field as Jolly's gonna be able to get back into Hulk form, come out of the spawn room gates. A nice reflect here as Self finds Zelos. That's 2 out for FlyQuest as FlyQuest now looking on to see if they can get the portal play to at least get back onto the points because currently 100 Thieves with 3 minutes on the clock, they're looking for more of these daggers.
Yeah, this is kind of brutal because, like, what we saw from 100 Thieves and FlyQuest, also portal cooldown used, probably is not going to matter in the grand scheme of things because they should have it up by second phase or by the next checkpoint if they need it, if they get a few holds. But regardless, like, you can see, like, FlyQuest on their defensive holds just sometimes get caught out in their setups. Like, Jolly's on the right side angle, has to try to jump back to the squad, you know, goes through that back angle of the waterfall side without a strategist, and he goes down. So, tough situation for Jolly specifically, but great track down by 100 Thieves. We'll see if they can keep it up on their attack, whereas FlyQuest on defense, I think, you know, aren't the best team at playing reactionary.
I love saying that side by side too. It's a get off my strats real quick. It's the bouncer making sure that you'll exit your way if you are the daredevil from the receiving end. Delena does have the dance of the butterflies though. Look at where Delena's gonna come from as Zelos and Ken are very close to the strat ult. TDK tries to isolate them. Nice little bubble here. Self jumps in, finds a dive onto Zelos, and Melio then gets a trade off. But FlyQuest are down 2 members, and even with the Ranger Royal Clutch coming in online, you want to hold on to that for the re-fight that you're gonna try to push into onto the point.
Yeah, that was a beautiful engage, and I think every time they've had, like, Deadpool ultimates for the side of 100 Thieves, they've just taken full advantage of it, and then also they go in immediately with, like you mentioned, the Dance of the Butterflies towards the back line, throwing TTK's bubble out there to block off some of the healing for anybody getting hit by it so they can't patty cake it or just absorb the damage, and yeah, job done. Nice work from 100 Thieves. We'll see if they can continue it, though. They have double strat ults, but it is the Rocket Raccoon alongside the Invis instead of double Gambit in Invis, so realistically, FlyQuest can take advantage with these, you know, combination of ultimates and maybe slow down their backline too after the Invis boundaries pop.
Oh, but with the Heartbreaker, that's actually enough to take away the Sia from Winnie. That was big from Vez. This allows FlyQuest to at least regain control over this point because you do not want the speedrun here. When you have 3 minutes, you have the Vanpool ultimate just to look at them too. At the same time, Zelos is the one taken out, but Zelos will come right back around with the invisible boundary.
Yeah, that was a clean engage by them, but now 100 Thieves kind of walking into it. I mean, Winnie's going to have the ult now after, like you mentioned, the Heartbreaker's gone. I mean, how do they live this? They have Invisible Boundary, but they lose Jolly early. He has to come back out of spawn still, waiting for the Invis. Kind of awkward corner to retouch, but they have to right now. Let the double out towards the point two. Invis Boundary is here now from the Zealous, who is invisible, to outlive it, but with the damage, we'll see you later. Can they get the KOs through it? They can't.
Oh man, but letting the double out, it looks like purgatory as the caps are going out, both from Jolly and Vinny. The Freedom Charge boosting up into these ultimates too. Look at Ken, the Rage and Royal Flush. Do they have the protection as Delena now jumps into the backline? They try to shut them down. Self then finds Ken. It's a trade from both sides, but no strategist available for FlyQuest to help with the sustainability.
They're still kind of ducking and diving around the point, in the meanwhile trying to stall it out as long as possible. Melio does trade out one, but is it enough? You lose your cap in this fight, also against the taunt from TTK. Portal is here, so they did get that cooldown back, by the way. Does have a BRB. And FlyQuest delay has kind of panned out because of Zelos' TP back from Doctor Strange, but they don't have any Strat ults, right? And Millennia's close to that invisible boundary.
Talk about that sustain here. Millennia is going to be the one to help everybody for 100 Thieves. CTK to get into position as he activates it immediately and finds Jolly. Melio cannot run away as they've had their private 1v1 over to the side. As Zelena comes out on top, that's 100 Thieves wiping out FlyQuest. Best is the last one alive. Jolly's going to come right back, but this is 100 Thieves finally getting the second checkpoint. They did waste a good amount of time here though, Dogman. There is 3 minutes at least extra on the clock for the 100 Thieves to work with, so they need to get up and see if they can build up the space.
Yeah, honestly, if you're FlyQuest, their delays are looking pretty solid. You know, when they can play dive, it looks pretty good. But, you know, can they keep up that pressure in the third point? Because honestly, 100 Thieves still have a pretty good time bank. 3 minutes in the third point, there was a lot of stall for sure. But will it be enough? You know, they need to string together at least a few fights together. You know, maybe find like KOs like this against Self without any ultimates up. That's exactly what you want to see as 100 Thieves are trying to force out like an early straddle somewhere.
And Ken too with the itch Jeff trying to get everybody off the point. Melio close to letting that double out, but it's up to Winnie with that Sia to help enable Delena. TTK looking to the back there. Heartbreaker is the first one activated, diving into the backlight of 100 Thieves. Winnie needs help. Winnie getting that ultimate taken away, and Millennia no sustain from the strats of 100 Thieves. Zealous and Tusi capitalize off of this. You have 2 minutes, less than 25, way more than enough time here if you're 100 Thieves, especially with these ultimates coming online still.
Yeah, 2 minutes left to go. Excellent fight for FlyQuest to win. And they actually have a great, you know, win record, I believe, whenever Vest does pump that ultimate with the Heartbreaker. Just kind of going in free 100% win rate so far. But 100 Thieves, we're building up that bank of ults, like you mentioned. You have Kuzi committing an ult in the backline, early dive too. TTK's is a little bit later. But will they find the KOs after this? Winnie's res does bring Self back, but they actually force the invisible boundary out from Zelos too, so no more straddles on the defensive angle except the Captain American ult. And will that be enough to save anybody here from the Stance of Butterflies? No.
It's not, and I see what Ken's trying to do here with the itch, Jeff. You could get these environmental KOs if you could manage to pull it off, but they're getting shut down, and now 100 Thieves, a minute and less than 35 seconds on the clock, still have Self, and letting that devil out, as well as Vinny, that could boost up Millennia's ultimate into getting that invisible boundary, because you want to make sure with Vez getting so much impact with this Heartbreaker, Dogman, it's been dangerous here, especially when it comes to dealing with it from the strat lineup of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, sadly for FlyQuest, not only lost that fight, but I mean, they committed to both of those strat ults. So now Vinny going in with the cap ult, and they have invisible boundary too afterwards, but they would preferably win this fight without it regardless. Start still pushing, pulled in is Tuzi. Nice job by Millennia and the squad to read that. Come back through, finding that stagger. Invis boundary still sitting here, and really no ult. Jolly has to delay afterwards because they've lost Melio. They have nothing else to really touch, and they have to commit the ultimate. Jeff ult's going to be a little bit late. At least the invisible boundary is used, but after this, Daredevil should go off on Self.
And Self and TTK have so much to harass them, dealing a good amount of that damage. Before diving in, Delena's a finishing blow to find Tusi. Tusi was unable to pop that ban hammer themselves, and Vez is the next to go down. Melio making the swap buff over to the Bucky. Can you even get that ultimate online with the cracks and impacting it? Jeff comes in next from Ken. Can this be a play? Can they stop him? And they get it to the finish line. We are going the distance. 100 Thieves with a limited time bank, slightly have more though than FlyQuest.
Time to switch things up.
Yeah, we're heading back 1 minute on both sides, and for FlyQuest, they'll be going to attack first, which is actually almost like a good thing for them. Both of these squads have looked great on offense so far. And honestly, FlyQuest delay, and you talk about it, like their third phase at the beginning looked good. But then they have to use Zealous' ult a little bit too early, you know, and Ken on the Jeff as well. It's hard for him to really connect, I think, with the squad. But, like, it just felt like whenever they didn't have Zealous' invisible boundary, just kind of hard to win those fights, right? So, like, we'll see what happens for FlyQuest on their attack. Maybe they can mix it up. They still have that Gambit advantage, but just didn't use it in the last defense. Regardless, we'll see if FlyQuest can snowball it moving forward. Losing Jolly on the defense and then maybe was not the best for their defensive side, but on the attack, they did a very similar thing in picking apart 100 Thieves.
Cracking up, Leg Day talking about Zelos KOing himself with a Daredevil Reflect. Let's not shoot out the Invisible Woman primary out here. When you get the Reflect going in front of your face, it can get a little tricky too when you're also trying to heal up your Vanguards, and then you get caught with the Reflect right in your line of sight. But getting started here, Dogman, you highlighted it perfectly. 100 Thieves now up on the roof getting ready. It was a little bit harder for FlyQuest to try to take this first point initially here, and now it's going to be a reset on the sides.
Yeah, let's see who can actually strike first blood, right? With both of these teams running Daredevils, so you know you can see through the walls and stuff, set up the dives a little bit easier. You look for that target who is caught out. Now, both of these Deadpools, though, just kind of looking each other towards the main side, trying to take specific angles as Melio tries to set up his dive.
It's a bubble party, though, as the girlies say Jolly trying to get the shish kebab, seeing if they could go for something cheeky. Over to the right side of the map. Vez is ready, though, to come down from the rooftops. Breaking the whole house down, though, is going to be Melio, just trying to focus down on that cap. But with the Van Pools now active and Zelos and Ken being the first to go, yes, we're seeing FlyQuest, though, specifically Melio wake up, says, I don't even need some of this healing. But 100 Thieves still have more of that sustain. They lost out on Vinny, lost out on Self. Vinny going over to the Doctor Strange, seeing if they get that portal play with this recontest, allowing FlyQuest to come back from the spawn room gates.
Looking for the Daredevil. They came back for the peel meanwhile, so they had the BRB, and like you mentioned, the portal still available on the defensive side. Melio able to find out Winnie, nice job, and that also removes that BRB too. Self and TTK able to trade back more though, and that should be enough potentially as there's no portal in time in overtime. Justin's Jolly stall. Unfortunately for FlyQuest, this overtime ticks down with not even a tick given. 100 Thieves hold.
That was beautiful. The fact that they were able to focus on that strat backline of FlyQuest allowed it where even though they lost out on, what, 2 or so before that second to last fight, they still were able to clear the point. It wasn't enough time to allow the Gambit to come back together with Zelos too. So we got to see some swap-ups because it's going to look a little difficult here for FlyQuest. Sure, they were able to, you know, at least get it to the finish line, but it was on their attack where they struggled a little bit to flip it originally, as 100 Thieves kind of didn't struggle either in that same time when they were the ones on the attack.
Yeah, I think all of this kind of stems back to 100 Thieves with Vinny building up that ultimate so quickly. Or yeah, I think it was it Vinny or no, it was Vinny in that last fight. He was the one on the Deadpool. But like he built up that ultimate incredibly quickly. They dove in the back line first. They ended up, you know, having to back up, but that read also onto Melio's flank ended up panning out for them, Vicky. But imagine this could be a potential draw still because 100 Thieves, they need to get only a single tick, 33% of the board, and they're going to cap out and win the series. But they only have a minute to do it.
That's so true. You're absolutely right. We're going to have to see if this was worth the wait. At least for now, it is. And I'm also just really thinking about how important having that Rage of Royal Flesh would have been. Imagine for FlyQuest if they were able to get that reset, but they didn't. And that's the main part of the series here as 100 Thieves coming out. Delena popping off on this side lock. What do you think, though, Dogman, of Zelos being on the Cloak and Dagger?
I mean, he's shown it before. He knows what they're trying to do. They're trying to go for that dive, you know, sort of play as well. So, you know, he's trying to, like, potentially fade it. You know, maybe play back with Ken as well. Maybe they're trying to build towards that Cloak and Dagger ultimate, because like you said, you know, maybe if you could build it in the middle of the fight, it could be actually fight winning versus 100 Thieves, who are, again, trying to set up these dives with Delena and the rest of the crew. But, again, fighting for those angles right now, pretty much across the whole map.
Both from Vanpools to 2C gets it slightly first. CTK is going to be able to match him eventually, but it's about peeling for this backline first. They try to harass both Millennia and Winnie, and with the follow-up from Vez, they do find Millennia. TTK now looks at them back. FlyQuest in some trouble as they're going to be able to try to kite away with Vez getting another one. Instead, they actually reset. They stopped them from trying to push over to the left side. This is going to be 100 Thieves looking to get a reset because they have less than 25 seconds. Melio is waking up. He's filled 2, and Self gets 2C.
Where's the portals coming out? There's that fade from the Cloak and Dagger you mentioned earlier. Already 80%. Needs to build in the middle of the fight. Vesh trying to fight towards that point. They lose Melio. That was a lot of the damage coming through, too. Tuzi's now swatching over to the Gambit because it's one of their strategists in Ken going for the portal play. Stalling out now is the tanks, the vanguards of FlyQuest. Back to the portal, get back towards that spawn. Zelos, 95, 96, 99%! He's built it, and he's back towards the point with a Cloaking Dagger ultimate. But can they find the KOs before other strat ults are built? 100 Thieves not even close to theirs. Vinny falls. Can anybody else go down too? Here comes the Deadpool towards the point, and maybe, just maybe, Delena needs to find more kills. He goes with the stance of the butterfly. The BRB brings back TTK. They can find the KOs they need. Zelos is dead, but so is Winnie on the opposite side. TTK trades back one. It's messy. It's back and forth. And TTK finds another with Self! Are you kidding me? And in overtime, Millennia falls with Self with another one. Tries to find more, and he does! He does it himself! 100 Thieves win!
4, 2, 3.
Dude, the BRB diff, TTK coming back, the follow-ups. That was so worth it. That was so worth it. Wow, what a final series. FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves were with 100 Thieves. No ping, no problem. Don't worry about it. We'll play on whatever server you want. Maybe at the end of the day, because Self is your MVP, and 100 Thieves take the series.
Oh, what a fun one. What a fun end. I mean, just with the implication on the line that we could potentially be going to another map for the first time the whole tournament. In the draw would have been crazy. So, yeah, I'm just happy for your sake, for your soul. You know, potentially could have burned out after that one. And your voice, yeah. That was a really fun end, though, and well-deserved win. I think Self had his pop-off moment towards the end, and it's, as you mentioned, the BRB being the real MVP.
Wow, man. The fact that TTK was able to get back, it looked grim. Jolly was waking up. Vez, by the way, popped off at the very end. Honestly, there was nothing else Vez could really do in that situation. Can you imagine if 100 Thieves didn't ban out the Sylok and we could have had like the Sylok 1v1 duel? But you know what? Maybe we could say that for another day because 100 Thieves are your winners. Self has 26 final hits on the Daredevil. That also comes to show you why maybe the Daredevil was prioritized in the pick and ban phase. So it's kind of like that pick your poison thing. Do you want to deal with the Delena Elsa or do you want to deal with the Self Daredevil?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion that you have to do in that regard because, I mean, Self earlier on the Ultron wasn't his most comfortable hero, I think, in terms of, you know, what he could do for the squad. But it's like you said, going over the Daredevil. And, man, what a fun way to end the day. I'm curious how Zoe wraps this up because that was a fun 2-1 for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have said everything there is to say. What an incredible end to this series. I mean, I almost feel like being held hostage was worth it at this point. I love that Self, the newest member of that team, you know, the one that slots in for their former star player. That's the one who's like closing out the series with a 3K, getting 100 Thieves, the first victory on the board. That's some good script writing right there.
Absolutely is. I mean, it's got to be so disheartening, too, to lose in that fashion for FlyQuest. I can't imagine how they're feeling right now in a lost series today. I'm sure, you know, it's definitely going to be tough to bounce back from a 0-3 weekend. But it was still a very impressive end, I think, in that 2-1 loss to 100 Thieves.
Yeah, but that's what we said, like, setting up this series, right? We did not expect FlyQuest to come out on top of this one. We really did not at all. The fact that it was so close, I don't think anyone saw that coming. What we really just wanted to see is FlyQuest making adjustments, FlyQuest looking just more in sync. And I feel like this is exactly what we got. Like, they really identified what their win conditions are, what works for them in terms of composition. Like, when they got to play that dive, and it's not being shut down and like completely torn apart like it was in the past. They're looking really good. They're looking really competent. So I do feel like they turned things around at the end of week one. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Yeah, it has been. And also it shows the importance of having literally some of the best duelists that we've seen perform in the past be able to have a little bit more room to work with, right, in a different server. And that has to be a highlight because a lot of the players are going to probably talk about it. So I think focusing on that and focusing on what FlyQuest can do next week, it's not going to be the side quest, guys, I had to say it again at the very end, that everyone was talking about in the last 2 days. It's going to be a different look. We know that these are such talented players. We see it out here against one of the best teams in the entire region, and look at how far it went. You look forward to now FlyQuest versus Energy when we're like, oh man, like it's a gauntlet run. And now it's kind of a different story after this performance because there's a lot to dissect for them in this upcoming week.
Absolutely. I do love that because initially, I mean, again, we all had expectations on FlyQuest just based on the individuals and, of course, also the bias of what the org itself was able to do last season. So for them to kind of find their stride at the very end here definitely puts them back into the conversation in the midfield. It is a short turnaround. It's not the right sentence. It's a short group stage. That's what I meant to say, because with going 0-3 in the first week, that essentially just means that you low-key, high-key have to win every match next week. So it's an uphill battle for them if they want to stay out of the bottom two.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, it's just, no matter how you slice it, it's tough, right? Like, even if you were to, give any of these teams that have gone 0-3 some props, because they definitely, all of these teams that are in that potential elimination spot do deserve them. But we can give as many, flowers as you want, because it doesn't matter how many of those flowers you have when they are whittled away in your hands, because every single opportunity you had, you've lost.
What's happening?
Sorry, it's just what happens past
this
midnight,
hour? It's like I unravel. You start with like t-shirt quotes. I do love that for you.
Poetry.
Actual poetry. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just glancing over at FlyQuest's schedule coming up in week 2. Energy Shock and then Swamp Gaming. Those are the 2 matches they have next week. That's tough. But they played it so close against their 100 Thieves, so that should then, of course, make you feel hopeful about an opportunity there against those 2 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I think that there is a chance. And I think we can offer that same opportunity to the Group B side too, right? Like, Group B is just fighting tooth and nail to get qualified, right? So a match that I'd be checking off, I think, for a lot of our fans out there is going to be Nightmare versus Lunex too, because Lunex also are 0-3, but have had close 2-0s too. So, that'll be a really fun game, I think, end of the day next Monday or next Friday.
Yeah, it's always such a dumb thing to say. It was like, those are quality losses, right? Like, the pieces are there. Like, it just all came down to either they kind of fumbled and couldn't close it out at the very last second, or the opposition just popped off left and right. And like, every once in a while, another team is just on fire, and then that's it. That's a GG. Nothing you can do about that. You just have on days and off days like that. But yeah, it's been an extremely interesting first week of play here. I think we've learned a lot. Mostly about the fact that we may have all had a pretty wrong read on some of those teams, which I do love. I love that they come in and prove us wrong.
Yeah, me too, because then you get to kind of figure out, okay, what's going in Americas? Imagine those who ended up going to sleep right before that final map played out and saw how close it ended up being. It was definitely worth the wait, and now people get to really dissect what happened. And then looking forward, I think it's the best birthday gift for myself to be able to see how everyone's pick'ems are not only in the trash bin, but it's like unpredictable, right? This region has come out from the MRC teams making adjustments in the 2 weeks that they had on a new patch and a new season, seeing what they could push into the MRI. It's been nonstop close competition. Like, despite the 2-0s, it's been very back and forth, and we've heard it from so many different players across multiple regions here between EMEA and NA, where they talk about, all right, well, some of us are still figuring out the meta. We're even hearing other players in our past interviews talk about how they excel when they play what they're comfortable with. Except next weekend, we are playing on a different patch in the tournament server. We will have the White Fox buff actually come through. We will have those Ulcer nerfs come in, and we have to see how that's going to affect anything, even for the teams that are comfortable running the triple strat. Because after today, too, we've been seeing a lot of triple strat, and we keep talking about the ultimate nerfs and what that's done in terms of splitting up those ultimate charges across those strategies. And is it better? Is it worse? Well, guess what? It actually works out in different types of game modes. The Ultron coming out too on Domination. There's a lot to break down here. And with those White Box buffs, we're going to have to see how that's going to influence some of the teams that excel, especially on the triple strat. So my eyes are also on Sentinels.
Yeah, we did get a good look at quite a few White Foxes already this week. The question is, how much of it will we actually see next week? Valentina's White Fox, for example, was absolutely lights out. So I am super excited to see which teams will benefit from playing on the most recent patch and which teams might start struggling there. Is there any team that comes to mind that could be on either side of the spectrum?
I mean, I think every team this week, in terms of like maybe, I feel like a lot of the teams out of Group B fall in that category, Zoe. Like, I feel like, you know, or maybe even Group A too, like with Sentinels. But, you know, I feel like TSM still figuring out, same thing with Nightmare, Lunex. Like, a lot of these squads are still trying to kind of determine, you know, what they're best at. But, you know, coming back to Group A, like it's the same thing for Sentinels in those squads. You know, like for FlyQuest, I feel like they were already preparing almost for the patch next week, right? So considering the fact that they were letting Elsa through sometimes and trying to play to that Mantis triple strategist composition that, you know, we heard in the interview earlier from Crimzo that a lot of teams are focusing triple strategist.
Yeah, actually, I found it so interesting this week that Elsa caught a lot less bans than I would have expected to see her catching. But yeah, we don't know. We don't know what the team's strat books look like. We do have an opportunity to talk to one of the coaches who might be sharing some insight. It's iRemix joining us for a quick chat after this victory. So let's bring him in. iRemix, long time no see, and
Hello,
Steve,
what's up, sir?
congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. It's great to chat to you again. Okay, listen, we gotta be real about this one, though. I mean, a win is a win, but FlyQuest definitely made you sweat for it today. Can you identify the biggest hurdle that they put in your way, and why was it so difficult to close things out as cleanly as you would have liked?
To be honest, first map we just made a composition error. Like, I think if we played some different character instead of Thankful, it would have been easier to mark that comp because they're like flanking everywhere. So having a Venom or a Cap would be more useful. But I also think like if we were playing a fair game, I do believe, like, I'm gonna call out some people. I think there's coaches that are getting league codes. We never did that. We had a plan, and somehow they banned DD first when we had never played DD. So I'm just putting that out there.
All right.
I love Dogman's face.
That's
I
the
love
tea
it.
we need at this hour, by the way. I'm here for this.
Yeah, you know what? Hey, if you know them, you could call them out, so that way other teams may know,
Right.
because who knows what other strats are being leaked. But I respect it. I
mean,
respect the remix, and you guys
yeah.
came out on top. Oh, okay. No, you don't have to. You don't have to at the same time. I'm just saying. But I do respect the way that, you know, you're standing on ground with stuff like that. That is crazy. And we were talking about it in the pick and ban phase, because that's something else. We only saw you guys play once, right? And we're talking about, well, obviously, Delena's like server admin on Elsa. We see the prio bans, though, on the Daredevil. It's the pick your poison type of situation in this meta. Dogman called it like the Headless Horseman comps that have been rolling out. Well, you finished the job. FlyQuest obviously look great. You guys take your dub. You did lose out on that map, just like at least you took that one map versus Energy Shock. Looking ahead now, though, you guys are versus Swamp Gaming. And Swamp Gaming have been cashing in on their scrims. They've been talking a lot. They see themselves as probably the best team within the region. Anything you have to say about that, as that is going to be your next series starting next week?
Yeah, I mean, Swamp is a really good team. They're mainly a diver team. But, I mean, we've been going back and forth on scrims. But I do believe that my team will beat them when it comes to the match day. My team is a completely different team between like match and scrims. The first series leap away from us, I do believe we lost 2 energy to just ourselves. We could have easily beat that team. So I do believe moving forward, we're just gonna beat every single team. As long as, like, I mean, we'll beat them regardless, even if they're trying to cheat and leak codes and everything.
I love it, dude. That's great. Dude, Remix, real quick, one question on this. Like, this is something that I've been, like, kind of burning at. I know you're a big brain guy over there at 100 Thieves. For you, like, where do you think this meta's going? You've been through a few different patches now as a coach, and I know that you've seen a lot of things in terms of, like, this first couple weeks of a new patch. Like, do you think we're headed back over to that triple strategist meta, or is things gonna, like, slow down and maybe, like, those divey sort of, like, 2-2 comps come and make a return next week?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe it's gonna go back to Gambit ban because Elsa is taking another nerf. So it's gonna be more of that, unless a team is really strong at Elsa and someone doesn't want to face it. And also, the new support is getting buffed, so there's gonna be infinite, like, every triple support comp is just gonna be way stronger. So I do believe probably would be Gambit, but I would have to test it out and see. That's my best guess.
Well, we'll see soon enough. Yeah. Well, Remix, I'm gonna let you rest up. This series took a few minutes longer than anyone expected, so I'm sure you are as exhausted as the players are. Thank you so much for sharing the insight, and best of luck in your matches next week.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give shout out to my family, to all the players. I
Please
think
do, yeah.
all of the new everyone carried that match. Self was going crazy on DD. He's one of the new additions to the team. So I mean, I give him the MVP of that match, and also Winnie was great on support, and yeah, we are ready to beat everybody. And also a shout out to Space and Jay, who are my friends and supported me this whole time. Thank you.
Yeah, much love to everyone out there. Much love to you, Remix. Great to see you again. Rest up. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you,
Bye.
Remix.